You practice immortality. I cultivate the land. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Spiritual Fruit Banquet. 3 mature sword raising goods. The light ball opened 3 4th grade sword symbols. Among them, 2 are Xiaohei sword symbols, and 1 is Derry sword symbol. The reward is so generous that Lu Xuan is determined to continue to cultivate the sword raising good. If the jade scale fruit is just a backup, and it is not sure whether to continue to plant, then the sword raising good of the same 3rd grade is a must. Lu Xuan thought about it and continued to inspect the spiritual field, checking the real-time status of each spiritual plant and satisfying their subtle needs one by one. Back in the courtyard, he looked at the storage bag, which already stored a lot of spiritual fruits, so he decided to invite Xuanshan Bailuan and Baiyu King Yuan, who had not seen for a long time, to come for a small gathering. He took out a silver white hair as hard as jade, and the spiritual power was activated, and the hair immediately emitted a bright light. This hair was left by Baiyu King Yuan last time. As long as Lu Xuan used spiritual power to activate it, the little monkeys within a certain range would rush over as soon as possible. Sure enough, after just over 10 breaths, a beam of white light directly broke through the flowing light array and landed in the courtyard. It was the descendant of the extraordinary guardian spirit beast, the white jade sky supporting ape. The white little ape bared its teeth and claws, as if asking Lu Xuan why he had summoned it. Behind the white jade sky supporting ape, the Xuanshan white Luan soon appeared, with a pair of black and white eyes quietly looking at Lu Xuan, and the white feathers on its wings trembling slightly. I haven't seen you for a while. This time I called you here, mainly because there are a lot of new spiritual fruits that have matured, and I want you to taste them. Lu Xuan explained with a smile. The little ape thought he was called over to fight, and his eyes were red. After hearing what Lu Xuan said, he slowly returned to normal, and hid behind the Xuanshan white Luan, looking well behaved and shy. Lu Xuan cut the jade scale fruit, fiery fruit, ice still fruit and some ordinary spiritual fruits he bought, and placed a small plate in front of each spiritual beast. Then he took out the drunken immortal gourd, and poured a small cup of 100 fruit spiritual juice for each. After he nodded in agreement, the children began to enjoy this simple spiritual fruit feast. Lu Xuan picked up a piece of ice still fruit, and put it in his mouth. Immediately, a crisp, icy, and sweet taste spread from his mouth, like a piece of frozen watermelon in the hot summer, cooling from head to toe. The icy taste of the ice still fruit stayed in the mouth for a long time, making the spiritual beasts linger on the taste. Lu Xuan carefully felt the icy and delicious taste of the ice still fruit, and continued to enjoy the fiery fruit flesh. A small ball of fiery red jelly-like flame was put into his mouth. As soon as it entered, it reacted violently with the residual icy breath left in the mouth, and instantly turned from icy and cool to explosively hot. The two flavors mixed together made Lu Xuan's taste buds extremely sensitive and stimulating, and he had a magical experience. This is the legendary ice and fire. He sighed secretly. The 2 kinds of spiritual fruits with strange and wonderful flavors, plus the special spiritual juice brewed with a unique recipe, made the phoenix and the little monkey linger and indulge in the ultimate deliciousness. Is it delicious? After the 2 guardian beasts were full, Lu Xuan asked with a smile. How is it? Do these spiritual fruits taste good? Xuanshan Bailuan and Baiyu King Yuan nodded hurriedly. Although they can eat spiritual fruits every day, they are just ordinary varieties, with a grade of 1 or 2, and the quality is average. But here in Lu Xuan, there are many kinds of spiritual fruits, with a variety of styles, and the quality is 1 in 100. The worst is good quality, and it is not uncommon to see spiritual fruits of superior quality. The taste of spiritual fruits is obviously different if the quality is 1 level lower. The monks who are responsible for raising them will not spend most of their time on fine cultivation of spiritual plants, and naturally cannot get spiritual fruits of a higher quality. This makes the 2 guardian beasts often come to Lu Xuan to have a feast. What a pity. I'm afraid I won't be able to cultivate spiritual fruits like this in the future. Lu Xuan said with a sigh, his expression showing 3 parts of regret and 7 parts of unwillingness. The phoenix and the little monkey were both very intelligent. They immediately heard the hidden meaning in Lu Xuan's words and looked up at him at the same time. Recently, I have offended several mid-stage foundation building cultivators in the sect who have stronger backgrounds and stronger strength than me. I'm afraid they will use small tricks to affect my cultivation of spiritual plants. Lu Xuan said sincerely. He was indeed a little worried that the people in Langayu Blessed Land would come to trouble him later. Therefore, he wanted to give the phoenix and the monkey a shot of prevention first, just in case. If someone comes to bully me, you will definitely come to help, right? Upon hearing this, the white jade sky supporting ape's eyes turned red, and he patted his chest, looking like he would fight at any time if he didn't accept it. The white phoenix spread its wings and flew around Lu Xuan, indicating that if he got into trouble, he would come to help him as soon as possible. With the endorsement of the two young beasts protecting the sect, Lu Xuan finally felt relieved. After the two phoenixes left, Lu Xuan cleaned up the courtyard. Then, he came to a nearby mountain. When he was entertaining Xuanshan Bailuan and Baiyu Qingshan Yuan with spiritual fruits, he accidentally saw his neighbor who had gone to encircle and suppress the Tongxin demon coming back. Out of curiosity, he came to take a look. This mountain was only 6 or 7 miles away from the mountain where Lu Xuan was. Lu Xuan quickly arrived at the foot of the mountain. The owner of the mountain had been waiting for a long time. What kind of wind is blowing today? Junior brother Lu, who never goes out, actually came to me. The owner of the mountain was surnamed Kang. He was a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building, but he had been promoted to an inner disciple for some years and was making various preparations for the impact of the middle stage of foundation building. I saw senior brother Khan coming back from outside the sect and guessed that the Tongxin demon had been killed, so I came to inquire about the specific information. Lu Xuan replied with a smile, following closely behind the cultivator. The Tongxin demon has indeed been solved, but it has nothing to do with me. I have no chance of getting a 4th grade flying sword. The cultivator surnamed Kang said with a wry smile. I originally thought that with so many fellow disciples sweeping through the city, my life and property would be safe, but I didn't expect that something unexpected would happen during the encirclement. Oh. Lu Xuan sat up straight, instantly interested. There are 3 Tongxin demons entering Xingyuan city and the surrounding market areas, and there is a remnant soul of the old giant demon attached to them. Under their guidance, the 3 Tongxin demons work together to break through, bursting out with strength comparable to the late foundation building stage. A junior brother in the early foundation building stage was not well prepared and was killed by the Tongxin demon in one fell swoop. This made the sect furious and finally sent a true disciple to kill the Tongxin demon directly. True disciple. Lu Xuan was secretly shocked. The 17 true disciples were all the sect's giant and reserve, and their strength was at least in the late foundation building stage. Needless to say, they had treasures and skills on them, so it was reasonable for them to easily kill the Tongxin demon. It's a pity for that senior brother. He thought he could get a 4th grade flying sword with his own strength and chance, but he didn't expect that he would never come back. Lu Xuan said with some regret. Chapter 252 Aren't opportunities always given to us? It's a pity indeed. I thought that, even if I couldn't kill the Tongxin demon alone, I could still escape unscathed. I didn't expect that kind of accident to happen. The cultivator surnamed Khan shook his head and agreed. However, the path of cultivation depends on the word competition. Compete with the sky, compete with the earth, compete with people, compete for cultivation, compete for opportunities, and then go further. If you don't compete, opportunities and treasures will be taken away by other cultivators, and the gap between each other will gradually widen. Especially for people like us who don't have a huge family background, nor do we have unique talents that are 1 in a million. We can't miss an opportunity. One step behind, and you will fall behind step by step. It will be difficult to catch up with others if you miss it. The cultivator surnamed Kang said with some emotion. Lu Xuan pondered for a moment and said, "Brother, what you said is quite right, but not entirely right. Opportunities do need to be fought for by oneself, but it must be done under the premise of ensuring one's own safety. If you risk competing with others for opportunities, like the previous brother, who died because of it, then what else can you fight for? Brother Lu, everyone understands this principle, but doing it is another matter. Let me ask you, in this world, are there any opportunities that can be obtained without taking any risks? Lu Xuan opened his mouth, and then he didn't know what he thought of, and kept silent. He wanted to say that there would be no risk in cultivating spiritual plants, but when the word came to his lips, he felt that it was too absolute. Well, there is still a little bit of risk. For example, the fairy peach that always seduced him, the strange tree with hundreds of pupils that he couldn't look directly at, and the holy infant fruit plant that was fishing. Seeing Lu Xuan like this, the monk surnamed Khan thought he was convinced by himself. So, we still have to fight for opportunities. During the encirclement and suppression of the Tongson demon, among the more than 30 inner disciples, only one died accidentally, and the others suffered minor injuries at most. 3 fellow disciples also obtained the Tongson demon refined by the giant and demon head. Compared with the opportunity, the risk is nothing. Oh, by the way, speaking of the Tongson demon, I wonder how the brothers who got it dealt with it? After all, it is an evil and vicious thing. If you are not careful, it may bring disaster. Lu Xuan changed the subject and asked curiously. Naturally, the 3 inner disciples who hunted and killed the Tongson demon will deal with it. However, it is indeed troublesome to keep such evil things. So, if you are not sure whether it can be stored well, you can hand it over to the sect in exchange for spirit stones, sword seals, etc. The cultivator surnamed Khan replied. I see. Lu Xuan couldn't help but have a thought in his mind. That Tongson demon refines infants with 5 element and single spiritual roots into sinister containers, and then feeds and refines them with thousands of infants' essence, blood, and souls. It sounds quite suitable for cultivating the holy infant fruit. In addition to the yin spiritual energy and spiritual soil, the holy infant fruit also needs the yin soul, essence, and soul of infants to accelerate its growth. After obtaining the holy infant fruit plant, Lu Xuan was troubled by the lack of channels to obtain such things. Unexpectedly, the 3 Tongson demons hunted by his fellow disciples gave him an opportunity. It's a pity that the 5th grade holy infant fruit has been in standby mode in the small courtyard of Jianmen town, and it is only maintained by the yin energy inside. It seems that I have to pay more attention to the exchange activities similar to the Kington Club in the sect. The 3 fellow disciples who obtained the Tongson demon are likely to try to digest it internally first. Lu Xuan thought secretly in his heart. He hasn't been to the small courtyard of Jianmen town to check on the few underworld spiritual plants for a long time. Fortunately, every time he went there, he would leave enough nutrients to allow them to grow wildly and freely. It has been quite a while since he came out of Langaihu blessed land. Even if the 3 people have been watching him, they will probably relax after not noticing anything for such a long time. He decided to find a good opportunity to secretly go to Jianmen town courtyard after a while. According to the normal growth cycle of 3rd grade spiritual plants, the ghost-faced stone mushroom and thorn bone may have entered the maturity period. They are all evil spiritual plants. I don't know what rewards they will give. He imagined in his mind, and he actually had some inexplicable expectations for the light ball rewards brought by the 2 underworld spiritual plants. He said goodbye to the monk surnamed Kang, and returned to his mountain. Feng Falcon came over in time with the young dragon. The cloud-stepping lynx hid in the trees and casually revealed part of its figure, allowing Lu Xuan to see it. The demon ghost vine climbed down from a lush giant tree. There was a touch of light green on the top of the grapevine, like a trace left by the sap of plants. Did you steal the spiritual plants on the mountain? Lu Xuan squatted down and said kindly. No. The top of the demon ghost vine shook, conveying a thought to Lu Xuan, expressing denial. Really? Lu Xuan looked at the traces of plant juice on the top, and continued to ask with a smile. Really? The demon ghost vine continued to be stubborn. Oh, then these traces should have rubbed on you. Lu Xuan put his 2 fingers together as a shear, and cut off the small piece of grapevine with a click, giving the demon ghost vine a small lesson. Anyway, it can grow several roots if it stays at the fairy peach for a while. Back in the house, he sat quietly on a cushion, silently thinking about what he saw today. He and the monk surnamed Kang could not convince each other. Perhaps in the eyes of the monk surnamed Kang, Lu Xuan was too cautious and had no sharpness. Lu Xuan didn't care about his opinion. The biggest difference between him and others is that he doesn't need to go outside and risk his life to compete with others for opportunities. His opportunities are all on this mountain. In the water firefly grass that can improve cultivation, in the 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass that has successfully transformed, and in the 4th grade black insect vine, soul enriching pine, earth fire heart lotus, 5th grade demon ghost vine, and 6th grade ancient strange tree phoenix tree. This is also the reason why he almost never goes out to explore opportunities, even when he has reached the foundation building stage. Well, it's mainly because I'm a little weak. When my cultivation is improved a little bit, I have a little more treasures, and my trump card is a little deeper, I can try to see the outside world. Lu Xuan sighed secretly in his heart. He gathered his mind, and the spiritual energy in his body circulated. Slowly, according to the practice route in the Great 5-Element Kung Fu, he continued to absorb the pure and rich spiritual energy around him. To improve your cultivation a little bit, start with hard practice. After practicing for less than half an hour, a grey straw rope slowly came to his feet and touched him gently. Lu Xuan opened his eyes and saw the straw puppet with a big head and a small body standing quietly in the yard. At the foot of the mountain, a familiar voice came. "Junior brother Lu, are you there? I'm Xuan, coming to give you seeds." "So it's senior sister Xuan, I'm coming right now." The figure of the yellow-shirted woman in the transmission hall appeared in Lu Xuan's mind. He touched the straw puppet that warned him, and his figure flashed by like a stream of light, and in an instant he arrived at the foot of the mountain. The corners of his mouth rose, and he was happy. Or thought flashed through his mind. Aren't opportunities brought by ourselves? Do we still need to fight for them? Chapter 253, Hidden Yuan Grass 5-Element Fruit. Junior brother Lu, your place is really hard to find. You have to cross nearly half of the sec to get here. Lu Xuan activated the flowing light talisman array and welcomed the alchemist Xuan into the mountain. Xuan's demure face quietly observed the surroundings and said to Lu Xuan, "It's a bit remote." Lu Xuan nodded in agreement. When I chose this mountain, in addition to the characteristics of the mountain itself, I valued its location at first sight. I chose it for the quietness. He smiled and led the yellow-shirted woman all the way up the mountain. The spiritual plants planted by junior brother Lu are all very good. Xuan sighed. Lu Xuan knew that she was in the middle stage of foundation building and had a strong spiritual sense. Even if she was covered by fog, she could still find the spiritual plants hidden in it. In addition, the visitor was a big money maker. In order to obtain more spiritual seed resources from the alchemy palace, he deliberately exposed the spiritual plants he planted. Except for the 4th grade Earth Fire Heart Lotus and the 6th grade Phoenix Tree in the Earth Fire branch, the rest of the spiritual plants were exposed in front of the yellow-shirted woman. The higher Xuan climbed, the more surprised she was. Lu Xuan's attainments in spiritual plants were even more profound than she had imagined. All the spiritual plants she saw along the way were full of vitality and green. As an alchemist, she also had a deep understanding of spiritual plants, and naturally knew that these spiritual plants were all of the best quality. It was understandable that one or two or a few spiritual plants were of high quality, but it was a bit scary that all the spiritual plants were like this. This proved that Lu Xuan had a talent for spiritual plants that far exceeded that of other spiritual plant masters. Is this special spiritual soil? There is such a large piece. Halfway up the mountain, when passing by two dark yellow spiritual fields, Xuan's sharp eyes discovered the abnormality of the Wu spiritual soil. Yes, when I entered the blessed land not long ago, I accidentally found a nest of the two-headed armadillo monster. Seeing that they were not there, I brought some back. Lu Xuan said sincerely. What kind of spiritual plant is this? It looks similar to the firefly grass, but also a little different. Xuan pointed at the water firefly grass in the Wuling soil spiritual field and asked Lu Xuan, "This is the water firefly grass, which is a mutation of the firefly grass." I was bored and did many experiments and finally figured out this new variety of water firefly grass. In addition to retaining the original efficacy, it also contains a certain amount of ice spiritual power. Junior brother Lu is really a genius. He can actually improve the non-grade firefly grass into a second-grade spiritual plant. The yellow-shirted woman praised. As soon as he stepped into the elegant courtyard, a tentacle-like grapevine came up and crawled into Lu Xuan's sleeve. Is this a spiritual plant? Xuan asked Lu Xuan with some uncertainty. It is indeed a spiritual plant, but the species is quite special, no different from a spiritual beast, with high intelligence and omnivorous nature. It not only eats the flesh and blood of monsters, but also feeds on the flowers, fruits, branches, and leaves of spiritual plants. This vine spiritual plant is quite strange. Xuan made a simple comment and went straight into the courtyard. What she saw and heard along the way gave her greater confidence in Lu Xuan, and she firmly believed that he could cultivate the spiritual seeds that she was about to give him. Sister Xuan, this fiery flame fruit and ice still fruit were both cultivated by me, and it is better to eat them together. And this cup of 100 fruit spiritual juice was also brewed by me personally and stored in a special magic tool. It tastes different when you taste it. Lu Xuan served the spiritual fruits and spiritual tea to the yellow-shirted woman. Yes, they are all of the best quality that is hard to find in normal times. Junior brother Lu is thoughtful. The yellow-shirted woman followed Lu Xuan's advice and swallowed a piece of ice still fruit and fiery flame fruit respectively. The dual stimulation of ice and fire made her eyes dazzled, and she was in a good mood. After the two chatted for a while, she told Lu Xuan the purpose of her visit. Junior brother Lu, I told you last time in the transmission hall that I would include you in the category of cooperative spiritual plant masters in the alchemy hall, and that's why I came here today. This time, I got 25 spiritual seeds from the Sinner Hall, including 23rd grade Tibetan Yuan grass spiritual seeds and 5 element fruit spiritual seeds. I wonder what you think, junior brother, can you fully cultivate these spiritual seeds? Senior sister, I have no problem. Lu Xuan replied confidently 23rd grade spiritual seeds, 5 4th grade spiritual seeds. As expected of the richest organization in the sect, it was a big deal. From the beginning of cultivating spiritual plants to now, the total number of 3rd grade spiritual seeds he has planted is less than 20. According to the previous agreement, in addition to providing you with spiritual seeds in advance, I will also pay you a guaranteed reward. Cultivate the 3rd grade Kangyuan grass, 10 sword seals per plant, and the 4th grade 5 element fruit, 30 sword seals per plant, a total of 350 sword seals. When the spiritual plants mature, I will give you a certain reward, based on their survival rate and the quality of the spiritual medicine. What do you think? Okay. Lu Xuan responded quickly. He naturally had no objection. It was a very happy thing to get so many 3rd grade and 4th grade spiritual seeds for free, not to mention that he could get a guaranteed 350 sword seals. This is enough to buy 1 or 2 4th grade spiritual seeds. He smiled and made a simple agreement with Xuan, and then got 25 spiritual seeds from her. The Kangyuan grass spiritual seeds are slender, with a grey-brown surface. They look very ordinary, and they are easy to be ignored if they are thrown on the ground. The spiritual power swept over the spiritual seeds, but it could sense that deep in the seeds, there was a very rich essence of plants and trees, as if the essence of the entire spiritual seed was gathered at one point. As for the 5 element fruit spiritual seeds, they were oval in shape, with colorful spiritual light surging inside, and the spiritual energy was dense, as if they were naturally fused together, and yet clearly separated. After the yellow-shirted woman left, Lu Xuan couldn't wait to come to the spiritual field paved with Wuling soil. There were 2 special spiritual fields, one planted with more than 80 water fireflies, and the other planted with only 4 soul pines, leaving a large area of empty space. The 4 soul pines that he had nourished and communicated with his spiritual consciousness since childhood sensed his approach, and all of them shook their trunks in joy, and bursts of pine waves came. Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness extended and slightly appeased the 4 soul pines, and then he circulated his spiritual power and performed the earth drawing technique. 20 long and thin cracks appeared, just right to wrap up the hidden essence grass spiritual seeds one by one. As his mind was focused, an idea emerged in his mind. Zangilan grass, a 3rd grade spiritual plant, condenses spiritual energy deep in the plant during its growth, and transforms it into a special plant essence. It is the main material for refining the foundation building pill. Spiritual plants should be looked at from the inside, not just from the outside. After planting the spirit seeds of the Kangyuan grass, Xuan continued to bury the spirit seeds of the 5-element fruit in the spiritual soil. 5-element fruit, a 4th grade spiritual plant, needs to be cultivated with the spiritual power of the 5-element during its growth. It is the main material for refining the 5-element pill. Spiritual plants follow the mutual generation and mutual restraint of the 5-element. There are changes in the 5-element in the plants all the time. When cultivated with the power of the 5-element that generate each other, it can promote the growth of the spiritual plants. Cultivated with the power of the 5-element that restrain each other, it may damage the origin of the spiritual plants. No one knows the 5-element better than me. Right square bracket. Chapter 254 Phantom Bamboo. They are the main materials for refining elixirs. They are indeed the spiritual seeds, provided by the alchemy palace. Xuan sighed secretly. His spiritual power surged, and pale white clouds rose from the low sky of the spiritual field. Then, strands of spiritual rain fell, and penetrated into the internal parts of the Kangyuan grass and the 5-element fruit spiritual seeds. After absorbing enough spiritual rain, colorful spiritual energy slowly flowed in the 5-element fruit spiritual seeds, as if they were about to break out of their shells. The appearance of the Kangyuan grass spiritual seeds did not change at all. Only by searching carefully with spiritual consciousness could one sense the rich vitality hidden deep in the spiritual seeds. After planting the 2 spiritual plants, Xuan took the opportunity to check the water firefly grass on the other side. More than 80 water firefly grasses were growing well. The slender blue leaves were 2 feet long and densely packed together like the sky hanging upside down. With the flickering bright spots on the leaves, the entire water firefly grass was as romantic and magnificent as a starry sky. Xuan was happy in his heart. These water fireflies were the key to his improvement in cultivation. There are more than 80 plants. Even if only 1/3 or 1/4 of them can bring cultivation rewards, it can greatly improve his almost stagnant cultivation. After taking good care of the water firefly grass, Xuan continued to inspect the spiritual field. The 10 sword grasses planted in various places on the mountain peaks all reach the sky like sharp swords. For 8 of them, Xuan used the 4 kinds of sword energy in the 4-seasoned sword art to hit the sword-shaped plants just right. The other 2 plants were successfully transformed in the Yangtze sword sheath. One plant was nourished by the flame sword energy stimulated by the red flame sword, and the last 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass shot out the Zunli sword light from the Danshan to stimulate and nourish it. In the tributary of the earth fire heart lotus allowed the hot magma to continue to wash, and the stems formed by irregular light red crystals were even more dazzling. On the fiery red leaves, the veins of varying thickness seemed to have red magma flowing in them. In the middle part, a red lotus that turned from deep to shallow slowly rotated, so that every part could enjoy the washing of the magma. The sky above seemed like a burnt phoenix tree. The red lotus formed by the red lotus flame in the middle area was much smaller than before. The phoenix phantom inside was relatively solid, flying freely among the petals. It is estimated that it will not take long before this 3rd grade red lotus flame will be completely absorbed by the phoenix tree. Fortunately, there are enough flaming fruits planted, and there are still 2 red lotus flames opened from the light ball, which is enough for a while. Xuan flew out of the cave and returned to the house. In the next 10 days, he stayed in the mountain to cultivate spiritual plants and raise spiritual beasts. He only went out occasionally to have a small gathering with his fellow disciples, and specially asked if there were any inner disciples organizing exchange activities in the near future. He was always thinking about the Tongsan demon, which was extremely suitable for cultivating the holy infant fruit. Fortunately, he learned from a fellow disciple not far from the cave that a few days later, a true disciple would hold an exchange activity, which would include exchanging treasures with each other. Xuan counted the days and arrived at the location of the treasure exchange meeting as scheduled. A fiery red peak towering into the clouds. When he stepped into it, a slight smell of sulfur hit his face. Xuan seemed to be immersed in a warm world. He followed a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building and came to a dark red stone gate. Outside the stone gate, there was a boy wearing a red robe with many ancient beast patterns painted on it, which looked lifelike. Standing in front of the stone gate, he seemed to be connected with the entire mountain. The heavy fire clouds in the sky seemed to match the rhythm of the boy's breathing. Although the boy looked innocent, Xuan did not dare to underestimate him. He stepped forward and greeted him respectfully. Brother Huo. This junior brother is a little unfamiliar. This should be the first time he comes to my mansion. I wonder what to call you? The boy's voice was mature and steady, which was inconsistent with his age. His name is Huo Liner. He was born with a fire spirit body. He is one of the 17 true disciples of Xianjian sect and has a great probability of being promoted to Jinden Zenran. Brother Huo, you can just call me Junior Brother Lu. So it's Junior Brother Lu. Please come in and take a rest first. Xuan nodded and entered the dark red stone door. Under the guidance of a small and graceful fire spirit, he came to a wide hall. The hall was decorated in a rich and luxurious manner. The ground was paved with fire spirit ore, and various rare treasures were placed everywhere. Several beautiful girls shuttled through it, serving spiritual tea and spiritual fruits to the guests. Xuan found a relatively remote place to sit down and carefully observe the surroundings. There were more than 20 foundation building cultivators sitting in the whole hall, including some in the late stage of foundation building. Xuan even saw Yang Qingfeng in the distance, the one whose black-scaled dragon was cuckolded. In addition, there were 3 people who had a nodding acquaintance. Either they lived near his mountain and occasionally visited him, or they were Yusu's friends, and they had exchanged experiences in cultivating spiritual plants and spiritual beasts. He greeted several familiar cultivators, then sat on the fiery red jade chair and enjoyed the spiritual fruits and spiritual tea with peace of mind. After more than 30 inner disciples gathered in the hall, a ball of fire suddenly appeared in front of the hall, and then a boy in a red robe walked out of the flame. Well, the time has come. The people who have come to attend the meeting organized by me this time should be you fellow disciples. The boy bowed and continued. It's still the same old rules. First, we will communicate and discuss the skills, alchemy, and equipment experience, various major news in the cultivation world, etc. Then, it's the treasure exchange session that everyone is looking forward to. 2 fellow disciples are here for the first time. Let me briefly explain the rules. During the treasure exchange process, adhere to the principle of free exchange. Go on stage on your own, show your treasures, and propose the type of treasure you want to exchange. The only rule is to prohibit forced buying and selling, and there is no need to say more about the rest. The fire boy briefly described the rules, and everyone began to move around. 3 or 5 people gathered together, discussing and studying with each other according to their cultivation or family background. Xuan just muddled through the whole process and only occasionally expressed 1 or 2 opinions when it came to swordsmanship. In addition, he met 3 people who were discussing the cultivation of spiritual plants, so he talked a few more words and made the acquaintance of new fellow cultivators. Soon, 2 hours passed, the discussion gradually subsided, and the fire boy announced that the treasure exchange session officially began. It has finally begun. Xuan was in high spirits, watching a fellow disciple in the early stage of foundation building walk onto the stage. He came here, mainly to obtain spiritual seeds and spiritual beast eggs, and secondly to see if there was a chance to obtain the same heart demon, as well as other grades and types of strange fire. It was not until about the 10th person that an inner sect disciple finally had what he needed. Hello fellow disciples, I have a section of the root of the fantasy sound bamboo, which can be used to cultivate the rare 4th grade spiritual plant fantasy sound bamboo. I would like to exchange it for a 3rd grade offensive magic weapon, or 4th grade materials, talismans, etc. Chapter 255. Another powerful general joins the underworld courtyard. As the monk spoke, he took out a translucent jade box from his storage bag. The jade box was covered with talismans and contained a short section of a bamboo root. The bamboo looked like colored glaze, with dense roots that filled the bottom of the jade box. Each root had cracks of varying lengths and thicknesses. Be careful fellow disciples. This bamboo root is a bit noisy. The monk warned and opened the jade box. The moment it was opened, the cracks on the root seemed to suddenly expand. Then, Xuan heard a noisy and strange sound, as if hundreds of monsters were roaring in his ears, making him feel dizzy. he thought, and the gurgling spiritual power passed through his ear holes, leaving a thin layer of spiritual power film at the ear holes to isolate the noisy and strange sound. It's really noisy. No wonder there are so many cracks. He sighed and carefully looked at the glass bamboo root in the monk's hand. Even though he despised it, he still wanted to possess such rare spiritual plants. He was just still hesitating about what to exchange for them. He didn't have many treasures to exchange for now. 2 4th grade Yunshan Jade Scrolls, 5 4th grade Spiritual or Qigong Jade, 3rd grade Explosive Flame Pearls, several Finyuan Pills, 300-year-old Ice Souls, and 3 sword raising goods he cultivated himself. He kept the other 3rd grade magic tools, the 4th grade Xiaohei Sword Talisman and the Big Sun Sword Talisman, for their own use. After thinking about it, the only things suitable for exchanging with the cultivator were the 4th grade Qigong Jade Spiritor and the 3rd grade Sword Raising Good. The fantasy sound bamboo is a 4th grade spiritual plant. It is said that it can simulate human and animal language, and even various strange and bizarre sounds in the world. It is the preferred material for refining bamboo flutes with powerful sound wave attack power. It can also be used to refine other special magic tools. After the cultivator's introduction, more than 30 foundation building cultivators fell silent. The magical instruments that can be refined by the magic sound bamboo are quite limited and relatively unconventional. If it is a mature jade bamboo, it can be considered, but if it is just a root section, then there is no big idea. The cultivation cycle of the 4th grade spiritual plant takes several years, and it is not known whether this kind of rare spiritual plant can be successfully cultivated. Therefore, most of the cultivators on the scene have no intention of exchanging. After a while, when the cultivators on the stage were about to get impatient and were about to leave, a cultivator in the early stage of foundation building made an offer. Brother, I have a 3rd grade magical instrument, the Cold Dragon Spear, which is made from the skeleton of a 3rd grade water dragon. How about exchanging it for the magic sound bamboo root section in your hand? A 10-foot long spear appeared in his hand. The spear body was snow white and filled with coldness. A hint of desire appeared on the face of the cultivator on the stage. Although the 3rd grade magical instrument, the Cold Dragon Spear, was slightly less valuable than the 4th grade magic sound bamboo root section, it was extremely suitable for him at the moment. Brother, I have a 4th grade Red Jade Spiritor. How about exchanging it with your fantasy bamboo root? When he was about to agree, suddenly, a clear voice came from a remote corner of the stage. Looking in the direction of the voice, he saw a handsome monk with clear eyes looking at him, holding a piece of uneven red ore in his hand, with a substance similar to chalcedony flowing slowly in the ore. 4th grade red jade? The monk exclaimed. The value of spirit ore is generally higher than that of spirit seeds of the same grade. Red jade can be used to refine flying swords and other magical tools. Compared with the fantasy bamboo root, it has a much higher premium. Brother, are you sure you want to exchange it with me? The monk asked Lu Xuan in disbelief. With pleasure. Lu Xuan replied with a smile. A small premium is nothing to him. As long as he cultivates the fantasy bamboo to a good quality, he can make up for it. With the ability to control the state of spirit plants at any time, it is not difficult to do that. What's more, after the cultivation is mature, there is a light ball reward, plus the light ball produced by the 4th grade spiritual plant. It must be a huge profit. The cultivator with the 3rd grade magic weapon, the Cold Dragon Spear, saw Lu Xuan take action, and he knew his own limitations, and sat down angrily. The red jade in Lu Xuan's hand floated in the air, and flew in front of the cultivator. The section of the magic sound bamboo root also fell back into his hands, and he tightly closed it with a jade box, to prevent the strange sound from leaking out. After exchanging the magic sound bamboo root section, it was soon Lu Xuan's turn to go on stage. He walked firmly, and came to the stage. Hello, fellow brothers and sisters. The treasure I'm bringing to exchange this time is a special talisman. The talisman is called Yunshan Jade Talisman, and it is of the 4th grade. It is made from Yunshan Jade essence, and can be used directly as a protective magic weapon, to drive away evil spirits and avoid disasters. Runes can also be drawn on it to kill evil spirits. It is mainly used to exchange for spiritual seeds of the corresponding grade, or fetuses and eggs of spiritual beasts, and young beasts. It can also be exchanged with the same grade of different fire. He said slowly. The appearance of Yunshan Jade Talisman caused a slight agitation among the monks on the scene. Magical instruments that can act on evil spirits are extremely rare. This Yunshan Jade Talisman itself has the function of driving away evil spirits and avoiding disasters. It has a miraculous effect when carried directly on the body. In addition, it can draw runes and kill evil spirits. It is quite good among similar treasures. Brother Lou, how about I exchange it with you for a 4th grade magic weapon? A cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building shouted to him off the field. Sorry senior brother, I only want spiritual seeds, spiritual beast eggs and the like. Lu Xuan shook his head firmly. A 4th grade magic weapon was naturally as valuable as the Yunshan Jade Scroll of the same grade, but if it could be exchanged for a 4th grade spiritual plant, then for Lu Xuan, the value would be worlds apart. After he refused, several more people spoke up, wanting to exchange with him using magic weapons or elixirs and talismans, but they ended up with the same result. For most cultivators, the most common things on their bodies are magic weapons, elixirs, talismans, spiritual medicines and spiritual minerals, and few people carry spiritual seeds with them. After obtaining the spiritual seeds, they either planted them directly or sold them quickly to avoid the loss of vitality of the spiritual seeds. In addition, Lu Xuan only wanted to exchange for spiritual plant varieties outside the Sinan Hall Jade Book, so no one met his requirements for a long time. Lu Xuan had no choice but to step down with a Yunshan Jade Scroll. Junior brother Lu, I have a relatively evil spirit seed in my hand. I don't know the species and grade. I wonder if you are interested? As soon as he sat down, a short and fat old man came over with a kind smile on his face. Oh, senior brother, can you take it out for me to see? Hearing about the unknown species of evil spirit seeds, Lu Xuan immediately became very interested. The short and fat old man looked around and laid a thin film of spiritual power to isolate other prying spiritual consciousness and vision. That spirit seed is a bit special. It is not convenient for other fellow disciples to see it. Please forgive me, junior brother. Seeing that Lu Xuan had no objection, he took out something from the storage bag. A hollow blood ball. The surface of the blood ball seemed to be woven by countless thin blood vessels, and it seemed that there was an endless sea of blood trapped inside. There was a blood-colored flower in the sea of blood. The flower took root in the sea of blood. The petals bloomed layer by layer, and then quickly withered, turning into countless blood spots and falling into the sea of blood. It kept repeating the process of blooming, withering, and blooming again. This blood ball spirit seed is a trophy I seized after killing an evil cultivator. I don't know its species or grade, but I can only roughly tell that it is a spirit seed, and it has some evil nature. If you hold it in your hand for a long time, you can't help but have a bloodthirsty impulse. The short and fat old man said with a serious expression. Lu Xuan was calm on the surface, but he was ecstatic in his heart. The evil nature of the spirit seed was not scary to him, and he wished it was so. There are already several kinds of netherworld spirit plants in the courtyard of Jianmen Town, many of which are blood ball spirit seeds. He looked at the blood-colored flowers in the hollow blood ball and felt a slight agitation in his blood, as if he was about to merge into the spirit seed. A cool breath came from the immaculate jade on his chest, calming him down. It seems that the underworld courtyard of Jianmen Town will have another fierce general. He sighed secretly. Chapter 256, Wood Infant. This spirit seed is indeed somewhat evil. I wonder how you would like to exchange it? Although Lu Xuan's heart was in turmoil, his expression did not change at all. He asked the short and fat old man very calmly, how about exchanging it directly with the Yunshan Jade Scroll in my hand? The short and fat old man asked tentatively. Brother, this is not appropriate, right? The grade and variety of your blood ball spirit seed are unknown, and the Yunshan Jade Scroll in my hand is a very rare 4th grade treasure. Brother, you must also know its value. It is a top grade protective magic weapon against evil spirits. After engraving the exorcism runes, it can also cause great damage to evil spirits. If you exchange it for a spirit seed that is completely unknown, you may lose everything. Then what do you think? Blood ball spirit seed plus 1000 spirit stones in exchange for a Yunshan Jade Scroll. Lu Xuan opened his mouth. No way. A trace of annoyance appeared on the face of the short and fat monk. Although I don't know the specific grade and variety of this blood bowl spirit seed, I can tell from its appearance that it is extraordinary. It is incomparable to ordinary 3rd grade and 4th grade spirit seeds. Junior brother actually wanted me to add 1,000 spirit stones. It's a bit unfair for fellow disciples to do this. Lu Xuan sighed. Senior brother, I admit that this blood bowl spirit seed looks strange. Just by getting close, I can feel the agitation of my own blood. However, senior brother, you also know that spiritual plants, especially high-grade spiritual plants, have various strange requirements when they are cultivated. If they cannot be met, not only will their growth be slowed down, but they may also wither and die. If I get this evil spirit seed in your hand, I will probably lose it in vain without knowing how to cultivate it. It's just that I have always loved collecting various spirit seeds and trying to cultivate various strange spiritual plants. That's why I took the risk and sincerely wanted to exchange for the blood bowl spirit seed in your hand. Lu Xuan said in a low voice, acting as if he would do anything for the spiritual plants and implementing his identity as a pure spiritual plant master to the fullest. He completely forgot that he could control the real-time state of the spiritual plant and all kinds of cultivation methods were within his grasp. Seeing this, the short and fat old man was infected by Lu Xuan's words and deeds, and his tone softened. Junior brother, what you said is true. Cultivating this evil spiritual seed does make you take certain risks. How about this? Let's each make a concession. The spiritual seed plus 500 spiritual stones in exchange for a Yunshan jade scroll in junior brother's hand. Okay, then I won't argue with you. Lu Xuan agreed readily. I wish junior brother Lu can successfully cultivate this blood bowl spiritual seed. After the two exchanged, the short and fat old man said sincerely, thank you, senior brother. Lu Xuan bowed. After the short and fat old man left, Lu Xuan paid attention to the movements on the stage while thinking about this transaction. With his rich experience in planting blood bowl spiritual seeds over the years, as well as his perception of the vitality and magical properties of spiritual seeds, it is likely that the blood bowl spiritual seed is a 4th grade or even 5th grade spiritual plant. A Yunshan jade scroll that was obtained for free from the light ball was exchanged for a 4th grade or 5th grade spirit seed, plus 500 spirit stones. A small profit of a few hundred million. After a moment, a cold female cultivator walked onto the stage. The female cultivator was in the middle stage of foundation building and seemed to be somewhat unaccustomed to the cultivation environment here at HUO Liner. A thin layer of frost appeared around her, isolating the fire spirit from outside. The same heart demon from the giant and Zenran would attribute in exchange for a 3rd grade or 4th grade magic weapon or elixir. As soon as the voice fell, an evil baby appeared in front of the female cultivator. The baby had the body shape of a 2-year-old child, with a blue-gray body, a green face and fangs, and a face like old tree bark. Dark green slender branches extended from the chest, abdomen, limbs, etc., swimming in the air like water plants. There was a dark round hole at its belly button, and the face of a child's resentful soul would appear from time to time at the hole, roaring silently and miserably, with resentment rising to the sky. It can be seen that it had gone through a lot of torture before death. The entire body of the infant was tied with a dark blue rune chain, and the azure spiritual light flickered from time to time, binding the infant tightly inside. Here it comes. Lu Xuan sat up straight and looked at the strange infant carefully. This was exactly the Tongxin demon refined by Tong Yin, the giant and demon leader of the Jian sect. Judging from its appearance, it should be a wood spirit demon infant among the 5 element. One of the main purposes of his coming here this time was to get a Tongxin demon to see if it could be used to cultivate the holy infant fruit in the courtyard of Jianmen Town. Although the wood infant was an evil creature, it was after all refined by a giant and true person himself, which had a great appeal to many foundation building cultivators off the field. However, due to its origin, the bid was not very high. For them, buying this wood-type Tongxin demon was nothing more than using it for research and experiments to see if they could comprehend anything. Or after leaving the sect, it could be sold at a high price to the Jian sect and other demon sect cultivators, but it would not be used by them. At least on the surface. After all, the sect's discipline hall is not there to eat and drink. If you really want to use it yourself and get caught, you can't explain it clearly. After the cold female cultivator briefly introduced the heart-to-heart demon, she stopped talking and just shook her head from time to time. It can be seen that she was not very satisfied with the price offered by the cultivators off the stage. Just as she was about to put away the wooden infant and leave, a voice as thin as a mosquito came into her ears. "Senior sister, I have a good quality sword raising good and a 3rd grade explosive pearl. How about exchanging it for the wood attributed heart-to-heart demon in your hand in the rune chain?" The female cultivator's eyes lit up. The price offered by the cultivator behind the voice was slightly lower than her psychological price, but compared with the previous offer of the cultivator, it was already very good. There was no use for her to keep this heart-to-heart demon. After leaving the sect, she would sell it to evil cultivators, or consign it to organizations like Xuan Baolao, but that would be too troublesome. The sword raising good is quite famous in the sect. The good can brew and stimulate invisible sword energy. Its attacking ability is comparable to that of a 3rd grade magic weapon, but it is relatively rare due to the high difficulty of cultivation, not to mention a good quality sword raising good. In addition, there is also a 3rd grade explosive flame bead, which can release a large scale explosive flame technique. She thought about it and looked in the direction of the voice. Okay. After the female cultivator stepped down, Xuan took the initiative to come near her. He took out a green and mottled good and a red stone bead from the storage bag and handed them to the female cultivator. The female cultivator took a brief look, nodded with satisfaction, and handed the wooden infant and the rune chain to Xuan. "Junior brother, this rune chain is just a small object I made casually to trap this wood type concentric demon. I will teach you how to control it." After the female cultivator finished speaking, she transmitted a voice to tell Xuan how to control the rune chain. Finally, she did not forget to remind him. "Without my continued sacrifice and refinement, the rune chain can only last for a period of time. After about 3 months, I'm afraid it will not be able to restrain this evil infant. Please keep this in mind, junior brother." "Thank you for the reminder, senior sister," Xuan replied. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257. Let me take a sip of the bloody flower. The treasure exchange process has come to an end. Xuan stayed quietly in a remote corner, thinking about the gains and losses of this treasure exchange. He spent a 4th grade red Gangayu, a 4th grade Yunshan Jade Scroll, a 3rd grade sword raising good, and a 3rd grade explosive flame bead. As for the harvest, there is a 4th grade magic bamboo root section, an unknown blood ball spirit seed, and a wood type concentric demon refined by a giant and Zenran. Oh, I almost forgot, there are still 500 spirit stones. The little key training cultivator who used to be entangled for a broken spirit now actually doesn't care about such a huge amount of 500 spirit stones. Xuan, who realized all this, couldn't help but sigh. After the white light ball appeared from the small spirit field in the market, his life in the cultivation world has changed dramatically. When he was a little key training cultivator, he could never have imagined that 500 spirit stones would be nothing to him now. He gathered his mind and continued to think. There are quite a few duplicate treasures on hand at the moment. There are 4 pieces of red jade left, 2 of the 3 sword raising goods I picked, 300-year-old ice souls, and several explosive flame beads, burning essence pills, and some other odds and ends. It looks like I have to find a chance to sell some of them. The blood ball spirit seed was not a proper spirit plant at first glance, and since it might be possible to use the wood infant to cultivate the holy infant fruit, Xuan decided to go to the small courtyard in Jianmen town in the near future to take a look at the underworld spirit plants that had been ignored for a long time. After the show, Xuan called a tall spirit crane and quickly returned to his mountain. He couldn't wait to check out the 2 new spirit seeds. Xuan came to an empty spirit field and performed the earth drawing technique, and the structure under the spirit soil changed naturally. A circular hole appeared in the middle of the spirit field. He took out the section of the magic bamboo root with countless cracks from the storage bag and buried it in the hole. The noisy sound in his ears made Lu Xuan's movements seem to stop for a moment. Only when the spiritual power isolated the sound outside did he become smooth and natural again. After the spiritual soil completely covered all the root nodes, the strange sound in his ears stopped abruptly. Lu Xuan's mind was focused on the glazed jade bamboo under the spiritual soil, and a piece of information flashed through his mind. Phantom bamboo, a 4th grade spiritual plant, is good at simulating the sounds of all things in the world. When mature, it can stimulate various strange sounds with various effects, such as attack, bewitching, healing, etc. It is a natural material for refining bamboo flute-like magic instruments, and can also be used to refine other special magic instruments. When a sound source stays near the magic bamboo for a long time, the plant can make sounds of the same quality, exactly the same. There are people who are good at ventriloquism in the bamboo. From now on, spiritual plant masters will not go into the fields, Lu Xuan muttered. Mature magic sound bamboo can produce various types of strange sounds. Well, it can do everything, which means it is not proficient in anything. However, the advantage is that the species is extremely rare, so this deal is worth it. His spiritual power surged, and strands of spiritual rain fell, seeping into the cracks on the root nodes of the magic sound bamboo. Stimulated by the spiritual rain, countless cracks of varying thickness and length on the roots opened up at the same time. Lu Xuan heard a noisy and strange sound, which made him a little upset for a while. At this time, a thin grey vine crawled out from nowhere, and many tentacle-like vines spread out from the grey and penetrated into the spiritual soil. The demon ghost vine sensed the appearance of a new high-grade spiritual plant on the mountain, so it rushed over as soon as possible, leaving a mark first to see if it would be eaten in the future. The demon ghost vine is a 5th grade, and it feeds on spiritual plants. The roots of the magic sound bamboo feel like a natural enemy has arrived. The countless cracks on it are tightly closed, allowing the small vines to gently fiddle up and down, and left and right. I'm sorry, I was too loud just now. Lu Xuan sensed this instantaneous state from the roots of the magic bamboo. The demon ghost vine secreted a little grey mucus, which remained on the roots, and then withdrew from the spiritual soil, rubbing against Lu Xuan's feet a little embarrassedly. You're playing with my spiritual plant in front of me, right? The spiritual plant was toyed with by the evil villain who sneaked in, and the weak and helpless spiritual plant master could only watch helplessly. Lu Xuan dispelled this familiar picture from his mind, and kicked the demon ghost vine away. The countless cracks on the roots of the magic bamboo sensed the demon ghost vine going away, and opened together. Suddenly, the familiar noisy and strange sound came into Lu Xuan's ears. I seem to be a little used to it, after listening to it for a long time. Lu Xuan resisted the urge to summon the demon ghost vine, and reached out to dig in his ears. The spiritual power automatically blocked those noisy sounds, and he took out the evil blood ball spirit seed from the storage bag. The appearance of the spirit seed seemed to be woven from countless thin blood vessels. It sensed the tiny blood vessels in Lu Xuan's palm, which were slightly wriggling, as if they were about to reach into his flesh and blood. Inside the hollow blood ball, the spirit sense probed into it, and could sense an endless sea of blood. A blood-colored flower was constantly switching between blooming and withering in the midst of blood. The spirit power surged, and a hole slightly larger than the blood ball appeared in the blank space of the spirit field. He put the blood ball spirit seed into it, and with his mind focused, he immediately perceived its detailed state. Blood evil flower, a 5th grade spiritual plant, is an evil flower condensed from a sea of blood and corpses. It uses the essence and blood of various monsters as nutrients. When mature, it is an excellent material for practicing blood path exercises, and it is also the main material for refining some 5th grade elixirs. When a cultivator or monster approaches a blood evil flower, the blood in their body will be involuntarily absorbed by it. Over time, they will become weak in blood and withered. Give me a sip, please. Just one sip. 5th grade spiritual plant. A great treasure has bloomed. After seeing the blood ball spiritual seed, Lu Xuan immediately realized the extraordinary nature of the spiritual seed, but before planting, everything was unknown. Now that the spiritual seed blind box has been opened, it is actually a 5th grade spiritual plant. It's okay if you can't find unknown spiritual seeds in the sect, But once you find them, they are not ordinary spiritual plants. The thorn bones, the 100-eyed strange wood, and the blood evil flower that I got before are all like this. But there is also one thing in common. They are all evil spiritual plants, which are rarely seen in famous and orthodox sects. It is understandable that they have not been discovered by other cultivators. Lu Xuan dug the blood evil flower spiritual seed out of the spiritual soil. This kind of underworld spiritual plant is naturally best planted in the small courtyard of Jianmen Town. After all, he is an ordinary spiritual plant master who does not fight with the world in the orthodox sect. If other fellows see him cultivating such an evil spiritual plant, it will have a bad impact. There are currently 3 kinds of 5th grade spiritual plants, but they don't seem to be decent stuff. One feeds on spiritual plants and spiritual beasts, one is used as bait by someone to hook me, and the newly acquired blood evil flower wants to suck my essence and blood, and even wants to suck my blood. Lu Xuan looked helpless when he thought of the 3 irregular spiritual plants, the demon vine, the holy infant fruit plant, and the blood evil flower. Chapter 258, where? Explosion of the wrathful spirit. While Lu Xuan was sighing, the demon vine, which sensed the appearance of high-grade spirit seeds, followed the smell and crawled over. Seeing the evil blood bull spirit seeds on the ground, the grey vine swayed left and right, and crawled to the blood bull spirit seeds under Lu Xuan's cold eyes. I'll just rub against it. Or thought came into Lu Xuan's sea of consciousness. The grey vines tightly clung to the surface of the blood bowl, which looked like countless tiny blood vessels, and after just a few breaths, they broke away. Too strong. The strong bloody smell made it difficult for the demon vine to adapt for a while. After leaving a mark, it retreated behind Lu Xuan to show that it was innocent. Lu Xuan put the blood flower spirit seeds into the storage bag, returned to the house, and took out the wood-type concentric demon from the storage bag with a roaring sea sword talisman and a big sun sword talisman in each hand. The blue-gray baby was bound by the dark blue rune chain, tightly closed his eyes, and did not move. Lu Xuan followed the control method taught by the female cultivator, and loosened the rune chain slightly. Then, a thin green wood energy floated through the baby's mouth and nose. This heart demon was of the wood element, and was extremely sensitive to the green wood energy from the same source. It opened its eyes instantly, and its grey-white pupils stared at the green wood energy. At its belly button, various resentful souls of young children changed drastically. Want to eat? Submit to me obediently, and I will give you some, if I'm in a good mood. Lu Xuan raised the corner of his mouth, and placed 2 4th-grade sword talismans on the table. The blue-gray baby roared at Lu Xuan, and his facial features were tightly wrinkled, revealing his grey-white fangs. The demon vine stayed at Lu Xuan's feet, looking at the wood-type heart demon opposite. The vine sent out a complex emotion of half desire and half disgust. This heart demon was of the wood element, and had a rich plant spirit, which was in its diet, but the spiritual power in its body had been completely polluted and alienated, making the demon vine subconsciously want to avoid it, and not even want to leave a mark. Lu Xuan communicated with the evil infant for a while, but did not make any progress, so he tightened the rune chain and bound the concentric demon tightly again. After putting it in the storage bag, he sorted it out, and planned to go to the courtyard of Jianmen Town, plant the blood flower, cultivate the holy infant fruit, check out several other spiritual plants, and earn some spiritual stones. Because of the grudge he had with someone in Langayu Blessed Land, he was more cautious than usual, and sneaked out of the sect alone. It seems that I was overthinking. No one followed me. It has been several months since I robbed the 6th grade phoenix tree. Even if they really want to harm me, they will not monitor me for several months. I can only find another opportunity. In a jungle 10 miles away from Jianmen Town, Lu Xuan's figure quietly emerged and sighed softly. After leaving the Xianjian sect, he used the floating light body technique to the maximum extent, randomly fell into a dense jungle, escaped from the ground, and then used the invisibility ability of a hidden spirit cloak to completely hide his figure. After a long time, no one noticed any movement. Lu Xuan was relieved, and quickly entered Jianmen Town. Under the huge stone saw towering into the sky, there were many key training casual cultivators setting up stalls in the wide blue stone square. When Lu Xuan passed by, he bought a wounded 1st grade monster, and planned to bring it into the courtyard, to treat the underworld spiritual plants. When he arrived in front of the courtyard, Lu Xuan walked around and found nothing unusual. Because Jianmen Town is located near the Xianjian sect, there are often Xianjian sect cultivators staying here, so there are rarely acts of killing and stealing treasures. In addition, the courtyard is protected by the 4th grade Qianhuan Yunnan formation, so Lu Xuan can stay in the sect for a long time with peace of mind. After opening the Qianhuan Yunnan formation, Lu Xuan entered the courtyard. A strong yin energy rushed to his face. It's empty. It seems that the ghosts left last time have been completely absorbed by the ghost-faced stone mushrooms. Lu Xuan looked around. The yard was quiet and there was no trace of any ghosts. The first thing that caught his eye was the 5 ghost-faced stone mushrooms. The strange patterns on the top were much dimmer than the last time he saw them. They were drooping slightly, and the strange faces were full of unhappiness. It had been quite a while since he last came to the courtyard of Jianmen Town. The ghosts left behind had long been absorbed by the ghost-faced stone mushrooms, so that they could only rely on absorbing spiritual power to maintain basic growth. He quickly took out the ghost bead from the storage bag and released more than 20 ghost resentments from it. Under the nourishment of the yin energy of the ghost bead, these ghost resentments were full and solid, and eating one was equivalent to eating 3 or 5 before. The familiar delicious smell awakened the 5 ghost-faced stone mushrooms instantly, and the patterns on the top that formed strange faces lit up, luring the ghosts over and absorbing them instantly. After letting the 5 hungry ghost-faced stone mushrooms have a full meal, Lu Xuan came to the thorn bones. Because of the huge skeleton of the barbarian armored bull and the skeleton of the 4th grade 6-eyed red iron scorpion, the growth of the thorn bones was not affected at all. The dense white bones grew wildly, wrapping the 2 skeletons inside. Only through the gaps between the bones could one glimpse a corner of the skeleton. Countless tiny bone spurs penetrated deeply into the skeleton, absorbing the nutrients inside. The many slender white bones seemed to form a thorn forest, revealing a kind of weird beauty. Lu Xuan concentrated his mind and felt that the thorn bones, like the ghost-faced stone mushrooms, had entered a mature state, but the progress bar was slightly slower than that of the ghost-faced stone mushrooms. He came to the 100 Eyes strange tree. On the old and dry bark, dozens of grey-white pupils sensed Lu Xuan's approach and opened all at once. Suddenly, a cold breath extended from Lu Xuan's feet all the way to the top of his head. The 3 pairs of 6-eyed red iron scorpion pupils left last time were still hanging on the tree trunk, and each giant scorpion pupil was pulled by several tiny transparent tentacles. A few pupils still had dry and tiny eyeballs hanging on them, and the nutrients inside had been completely absorbed. They were shaking gently, like abandoned lanterns on an old house that had been abandoned for many years. That 6-eyed red iron scorpion is worthy of being a 4th grade. After so long, both the skeleton and the pupils are still playing a residual role. Lu Xuan sighed, found an empty spiritual field, and carefully planted the blood evil flower. Then, he took out the 1st grade monster he bought on the way, and poured all the fresh blood on the blood evil flower spirit seeds. He threw the pupils with moist spiritual energy in front of the 100 pupils weird tree. 2 transparent tentacles shot out from the strange pupils and directly penetrated the monster's pupils, which were still slightly rotating. The monster meat was buried under the poisonous shuttle tree, and the skeleton was thrown into the thorn bones. The soul was naturally easily absorbed by the ghost-faced stone mushroom. A fresh monster was divided up completely. Flesh, bones, souls, pupils. The small courtyard in Jianmen Town provides one-stop funeral services. The main feature is that a person comes in intact, with no body or bones left, and can only come in but not out. Lu Xuan laughed and took out the wood-type concentric demon from the storage bag. The purple lightning sword was pulled out of the Xuan sword sheath, and an arc of electricity flashed, causing the sword sheath to tremble continuously. A bolt of lightning struck the blue-gray baby. Are you there? Can you give me some souls of the baby? Are you there? Can you give me some monthly tickets? Sorry, I was too loud just now. I'm asking for monthly tickets from all the big guys in the 3rd update. Chapter 259 Soul Lamp. Electric arcs jumped on the blue-gray body, causing the concentric demon to twitch and tremble. The wood infant opened its eyes, its gray-white pupils full of resentment, staring at Lu Xuan. The green light on its body surged, causing the rune chains that bound it to emit a deep blue light, tightening with all its strength to suppress the wood infant. It seems that you don't understand the current situation. Xuan chuckled, and a purple light flashed on the dark purple sword in his hand, hitting the wood infant's body at a faster speed. I repeat it to you again, spit out some of the resentful souls of the infant, otherwise, the intensity of the lightning will be doubled next time. The wood concentric demon showed an expression of unbearable pain on his face, his facial features squeezed together, and he growled silently. Seeing that the wood infant did not react, Xuan directly urged the purple lightning sword, and a dark purple electric light several times thicker instantly fell on its blue-gray body. A faint smell of burning permeated the air. Just when Xuan was about to increase the strength of the wooden infant, the dark hole of the navel on the wooden infant's young body finally moved. A fist-sized infant soul struggled to get out of the hole. The body was grayish-white, condensed and not dispersed, and the empty eye sockets looked around in confusion. There is really something in the belly. No wonder that the giant and demon used thousands of infant souls to sacrifice the 5 sons of concentric demon. Xuan looked at the infant soul that had lost its intelligence and thought with surprise. He followed the same method and continued to force the wooden infant to spit out a few confused infant souls, leading them to the place where the holy infant fruit was planted. Under his spiritual perception, it seemed that there was a dry and skinny gray-black baby in the embryo-like spirit seed, curled up in a ball, motionless. Looking more carefully, the gray-black baby disappeared in an instant, and only a ball of gray-black things was hidden in the spirit seed. Compared with the last time I left the courtyard, the holy infant fruit spirit seed had almost no changes. Although the courtyard was filled with yin energy, it could only barely maintain the vitality of the holy infant fruit, and could not promote its growth and development. Xuan controlled the soul of an infant who looked like an idiot to come above the holy infant fruit spirit seed. The moment the infant soul appeared, Xuan clearly sensed a slight change in the embryonic spirit seed below. It seemed as if a sinister and resentful gaze shot out from the spirit seed, staring coldly at the infant soul. Instead of staying in the wooden infant, it is better to be absorbed by this holy infant fruit and enter reincarnation early. Xuan sided the infant soul that had long lost its mind and then controlled it to pass through the spiritual soil and introduce it into the holy infant fruit spirit seed. Under the perception of spiritual consciousness, the gray and black things in the embryonic spirit seed surged violently, and the black air filled the air, and it took a long time to calm down. In the thick black air, Xuan noticed that the gray and black baby was like eating noodles, sucking the baby soul into his shriveled belly. The black air disappeared, and the dry and skinny gray and black baby that flashed by seemed to have more vitality. Seeing this, Xuan nodded gently and sent the souls of several other demented infants into the holy infant fruit spirit seed. After checking the dark blue rune chain on the wooden infant and confirming that there was no problem, he carefully put it into the storage bag. These infant souls are enough for the holy infant fruit to absorb for a long time. As for this wood-type concentric demon, it has to be raised well for the time being, so that it can be used to extract souls for a long time. While Xuan was thinking, he came to the spiritual field area, where the blood synflower spirit seed was buried. Cultivating the blood synflower requires the essence and blood of various monsters and even monks. For Xuan at present, it is not a big problem. When raising those dragons and pythons in Kyan Long Lake before, more than half of the dragon essence and blood was extracted in the name of inspection. It's been a long time since the last blood draw. I have to find a chance to check those little dragons and anacondas again for their healthy growth. Now that I'm an inner disciple, I wonder if there's a chance to check those 3rd or 4th grade adult dragons in the sect. Although he still had a lot of dragon blood in his hand, Xuan thought of it in a state of peace. The blood evil flower is a 5th grade spiritual plant, and its blood sucking capacity is naturally not comparable to that of the dragon vine. In addition, he also needs dragon blood to refine his own cultivation of Texuhua Langpian. Seeing so much, it is estimated that it will be used up very quickly. With his heart flying, he took out a bottle of dragon blood from his storage bag and poured it into the spiritual soil above the blood evil flower spirit seed. The red blood essence seeped down along the spiritual soil. When it came to the blood evil flower spirit seed, Countless things on the surface of the blood bowl, like tiny blood vessels, instantly came to life, greedily absorbing every drop of dragon blood essence in the spiritual soil. After absorbing the dragon's blood essence, the countless tiny blood vessels on the surface of the blood bowl had different colors, and the red blood flowed smoothly all the way, blending into the boundless sea of blood inside. The sea of blood was full of waves, and the blood-colored flowers inside bloomed more beautifully. I don't know if it was Lu Xuan's illusion, but he felt that the blood-colored flowers bloomed a little longer than before. Lu Xuan poured 3 bottles of dragon's blood essence to the 5th grade blood evil flower spirit seed, and came to the ghost-faced stone mushroom. After Lu Xuan came over, the ghost-faced stone mushroom, which had been hungry for a long time, finally had a full meal, and the lines on the grey-white stone surface became more dazzling. Lu Xuan stopped in front of it, and his mind was focused on a ghost-faced stone mushroom. The progress bar below was already more than half full, and it would not take long to reach full. But Lu Xuan was not sure when he would come to the courtyard of Jianmen Town next time, and he was very curious about the white light balls brought by the evil spirit plants. He decided to ripen a ghost-faced stone mushroom to see what rewards he could get. Although the ghost-faced stone mushroom is more evil, it is still within the scope of spiritual plants. The King Mu source energy derived from the life essence of the 5th grade King Xuan deer also has an effect. A ray of light green spiritual light shot out from his fingertips and poured into a ghost-faced stone mushroom in front of him. Suddenly, the strange runes on the top of the grey-white mushroom kept changing, like a face with constantly changing expressions. A huge suction force came from the face, sucking the few remaining plump and solid resentful souls next to it. The progress bar below seemed to jump. After continuously injecting King Mu's source energy and accelerating the absorption of ghost resentment, the ghost-faced stone mushroom in front of him was finally fully ripened. Lu Xuan carefully pulled it out, and a thought flashed through his mind. Ghost-faced stone mushroom, a 3rd grade spiritual plant, is of good quality and can be used to assist in the practice of certain evil arts and speed up its practice. Good quality, it's already very good. After all, the purity of the spiritual energy in the spiritual field of Jianmen Town is far inferior to that in the sect, and I only come here occasionally to check the cultivation, and I can't do it as carefully as in the cave day and night. To get a good quality spiritual plant, I guess it also has to do with the effect of King Mu Yuan Qi. Lu Xuan sighed, focusing on a slightly flickering white light ball in front of him. With a light touch, countless light points of the light ball condensed into a blurry face and instantly drilled into Lu Xuan's body. Harvest a 3rd grade ghost-faced stone mushroom and obtain a 4th grade magic weapon soul guiding lamp. Chapter 260 True Invitation. As the thought flashed through his mind, a strange lantern appeared in Lu Xuan's hand. The handle of the lamp looked like a long and thin piece of white bone. When he held it in his hand, he could feel a chill. The lampshade was pale white, as if it was made of a dead person's skin. Under the lamp holder, there were many dark red lamp tassels, gently swaying in the air. The innermost candle was also pale white, and on the surface, there were many faces of resentful souls crowded together, all moving away from the pale candle light that was constantly swaying at the top. Lu Xuan's mind was focused on this strange lantern, and he soon learned detailed information about it. The soul guiding lamp, a 4th grade magic weapon, was made from the skin, bones, and soul of a late stage foundation building cultivator. It can attract ghosts within a certain range. When burning the flames of resentful souls, it can disturb the minds of cultivators and monsters, causing them to be temporarily lost. A 4th grade magic weapon. It has the effect of gathering ghosts and disturbing the mind, but unfortunately, it is not in line with my status as a disciple of a famous family. I can only use it secretly. The white light ball brought by the netherworld spiritual plant was not unexpected by Lu Xuan. It brought a evil magic weapon of the same style. Whether it was the appearance or the effect, it revealed an evil nature and was not suitable for being presented to others directly. After the King Mu Yuan Qi ripened 1 ghost-faced stone mushroom, there were still 4 left. Lu Xuan just had a whim to see what kind of rewards this kind of netherworld spiritual plant might have, and did not continue to ripen it. After all, King Mu Yuan Qi is extremely precious and needs to absorb a lot of plant spiritual energy to replenish it. A good knife should be used on the blade, and there is no need to spend all on this third grade ghost-faced stone mushroom. He roughly estimated the ripening time of the ghost-faced stone mushroom and the thorn bone next to it, opened the 1,000 illusion clouds and smoke array, and left the courtyard. In the Wanbao building, as soon as Lu Xuan appeared, an old man with a ruddy face came up to him. Dao Iao Lu, long time no see. Dao Iao. Lu Xuan had some impression of this old man. The last time he came to sell the Huana and Luo fruit and Jio vine, it was this old man who introduced him to the treasure exchange meeting held by the top management of Wanbao Tower, from which he obtained the 5th grade holy infant fruit plant, and the 4th grade 6-eyed red iron scorpion skeleton. Dao Iao Lu, is there anything you need from Wanbao Tower this time? The old man asked with a warm smile. Lu Xuan was young, but he had already reached the foundation building stage. With the identity of a disciple of the Xianjian sect, he had a promising future. He must make friends with him. I want to sell a spiritual ore and a special treasure. Lu Xuan took out a piece of red gangayu and a ball of 100-year-old ice spirit from his storage bag. Is this the 4th grade red gangayu? Being able to manage a branch of Wanbao Tower, the old man was naturally knowledgeable and recognized the origin of the red gangayu at a glance. He took it from Lu Xuan carefully and examined it carefully. Looking at the chalcedony-like substance slowly flowing in the uneven ore, his eyes revealed a hint of obsession. This is the best material for refining flying swords. And this 100-year-old ice soul. In the crystal clear ice crystal, a ball of pure white spirit liquid seemed to solidify inside the ice crystal. Even through the thick ice crystal, one could feel a pure and extremely cold breath. It is said that it is an excellent material for refining some high-grade ice-type elixirs. A small drop of it can greatly improve the success rate and quality of the elixir. In the eyes of alchemists, it is a treasure that they dream of. The old man commented on the two things Lu Xuan took out. Do you want to sell it directly to our Wanbao Tower, or wait for a while and auction these two treasures? The 4th grade red gangayu and the 3rd grade 100-year-old ice soul are both rare and precious, and can be included in the Wanbao Tower auction. Sell it directly. Lu Xuan replied indifferently. The auction is either on consignment, charging a lot of spirit stones, or requires the person to be present, which is more troublesome for him, and increases the risk. It is better to sell it directly to Wanbao Tower. Well then. The ruddy old man pondered for a moment, and made an offer. Spiritual ore is only a material for cultivation, and its value is generally lower than that of the same grade of cultivation techniques, instruments, etc. Wanbao Lao offers 2,800 spiritual stones. As for the 100-year ice soul, its value is equivalent to that of an ordinary 3rd grade instrument, and Wanbao Lao offers 900 spiritual stones. What do you think, fellow Daoist Lu? Okay. Lu Xuan readily agreed. With his understanding of the market, the old man's offer was already extremely fair. Even if he went to other places, it would probably be even lower. He handed the red gangayu and the 100-year ice soul to the old man, and soon he got a total of 3,700 spiritual stones. With the money he had saved before, he now had about 8,000 spiritual stones. He still had a lot of treasures of all kinds, including 3 pieces of red gangayu, to each of the 100-year ice soul and the sword cultivation gourd, as well as several explosive flame beads, burning yuan pills, and jade muscle pills. Most of them were kept for his own use. In addition, considering that selling too many at one time might be too ostentatious and attract others' prying eyes, Lu Xuan thought it was better to keep a low profile. After he had more money in his hands, Lu Xuan wandered around under the guidance of a pretty girl to see if there was anything he needed. There are many varieties of spirit seeds in Wanbao Tower, but there are not many varieties of the 3rd grade and above, and most of them are common types, which can be obtained at a more favorable price in the synod hall of the sect. As his horizons broadened, Lu Xuan found that the probability of him finding unknown spirit seeds was getting smaller and smaller. When he was in Linyang Market, he didn't know anything, so he would think that a spirit seed he came across was a good treasure. After entering the sect, he made up for a lot of knowledge about spirit plants, and accumulated enough experience in cultivating spirit plants, so he rarely felt the surprise of opening a blind box. Fortunately, I still found those kinds of underworld spirit plants. Lu Xuan thought optimistically. Other things in Wanbao Tower, such as magic tools, elixirs, talismans, etc., are generally attractive to him. He can be said to have no obvious shortcomings at present. He has many treasures on him, which is much stronger than the cultivators of the same level. The only ordinary spiritual consciousness is very likely to be enhanced by epic after the appearance of Yundling Pine. Most of the rewards from the light group were extraordinary, so Lu Xuan looked down on those ordinary goods. After strolling for a while, he left on his own and sneaked back to his own mountain. It's better to go home and feel at ease. After entering the inner sect, Lu Xuan finally relaxed completely. As soon as he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he saw a black and white Teikai pattern floating in the air. As if sensing Lu Xuan's breath, the black and white Teikai pattern suddenly expanded 10 times, and a handsome monk in white shirt slowly walked out of it. The monk had white hair, a noble temperament, and a pair of magical eyes. One side was dark and deep, and the other side was pure white and indifferent. It was Jepu, who raised a pair of ancient strange beasts, yin-yang cunfish, and one of the 17 true disciples of Xianjian sect. Junior brother Lu, you made me wait for a long time. Jepu said to Lu Xuan with a smile, and the black and white Teikai pattern behind him shrank rapidly and merged into his back. Hello, senior brother Je. I have to go out for something. Please forgive me for taking up your time. No problem. I came here to ask for a favor. There is a true disciple in the sect who wants to invite you to help him raise insects. Chapter 261 Worm Valley. Brother, you asked me to help you raise insects? Lu Xuan asked in surprise. That's right. Jepu nodded. Brother Je, please come in and have a chat. I have my own brewed spirit juice in my cave, and there are also fresh and ripe spirit fruits. Please taste them. It was not a good idea to let the dignified brother stand outside all the time, so Lu Xuan hurriedly invited Jepu to enter the mountain. When they came to their own courtyard, he poured a cup of fragrant 100-fruit spirit juice from the drunken immortal gourd, and brought out a plate of cut flaming fruit and ice radish fruit. Yes, the spirit fruit is of excellent quality, fragrant and delicious, and the taste of the spirit juice is even more varied, but with distinct layers. Junior brother Lu is quite good at enjoying it. Jepu carefully experienced the wonders of the 100-fruit spirit juice, and a trace of admiration appeared on his face. When I cultivate spirit plants on weekdays, I like to tinker with these things to satisfy my appetite. I hope you like it. Lu Xuan filled Jepu's glass of spirit juice again, and said with a smile. By the way, senior brother Je, what's the matter with what you just said about someone inviting me to raise insects? That person is a close friend of mine in the sect, named Zhang Jingshan. He has a unique talent in controlling insects, and is also a true disciple of the sect. Recently, he has been away for something, which will take about half a year, but he has raised many high-grade exotic insects in the sect, and several of them need regular care. If they were ordinary insects, it would be fine. They could be handed over to the outer disciples of the sect to take care of and cultivate. 1, 2, or even 3-grade exotic insects would be no problem. But he has a pair of special 4th-grade exotic insects that have to stay in the cave. There are also several 3rd and 4th-grade exotic insects. If they are handed over to key training cultivators to take care of, accidents may happen. So I recommended you, junior brother Lu, to him. Junior brother, you can help me solve the reproduction problem of the ancient yin-yang cunfish, and resolve the obsession of the Xuan deer before its death. I think it will be no problem for you to take care of some exotic insects. When junior brother Xuan comes back, he will naturally give junior brother Lu a satisfactory reward. Lu Xuan lowered his head and thought. He had great confidence in raising and caring for the alien insects. As long as he fed them something, he would be able to understand their preferences, needs, and peculiarities. Let alone the reward, the more important thing was to be able to make friends with a true disciple. There were only 17 true disciples in the huge Xianjian sect, and each of them could be called a giant in reserve. It would be of great benefit to be able to make friends with them. If Jepu had not recommended him to the Giantan Masters before, it would have been difficult for him to get into the sight of the Giantan Masters with his early foundation building cultivation, and he would not have been able to obtain the infinitely useful King Mu Yuan key. Okay, thank you senior brother Jeff for your support. Junior brother, I'll go and try it, Lu Xuan said with a smile. The two did not stay for long, and a black and white take-eye pattern appeared behind Jepu's head, rotating and growing. Lu Xuan felt a blackness in front of his eyes and entered a chaotic world. Various colors of light flashed before his eyes, and in a flash, he appeared in a wide valley. He steadied his body and had a preliminary understanding of the strength of the true disciples. This is a worm valley specially built by Junior Brother to raise strange insects. The terrain inside is complex and arranged with various formations. It is suitable for many species of strange insects and beasts to reproduce and thrive. Jepu said lightly beside him. Lu Xuan looked down at the worm valley. He could see jungles, deserts, swamps and other terrains. There were many strange trees growing in the jungle, and various strange hissing sounds came from time to time. The spiritual consciousness could roughly sense that there were a large number of strange insects lurking inside. The desert was red, with many large and small pits on the surface, and charred smoke rose from it. There were small hills scattered everywhere, which looked like insect eggs from a distance. The swamp was full of rotten trees and branches, and pale green bubbles swelled from time to time, which showed that there were countless poisonous insects hidden inside. As they were looking around, a black light quickly came over, and a young monk stopped in front of Lu Xuan and the others. The monk had a dull expression, his lips were tightly pursed, and he looked a little speechless. The robe on his body caught Lu Xuan's attention. The dark black robe was woven from countless black threads. Upon closer inspection, the black threads turned out to be thin black insects, draped over his body, and moving without wind, faintly revealing a bit of evil. Senior Brother Jen. The black-robed young man greeted Jepu, and looked at Lu Xuan with a bit of inquiry in his eyes. Junior Brother Zhang, this is Junior Brother Lu Xuan whom I mentioned to you. He has a very deep attainment in the way of spiritual plants and spiritual beasts. Junior Brother Lu, this is Zhang Jingshan, you can just call him Senior Brother Zhang. Hello, Senior Brother Zhang. Lu Xuan bowed his head and saluted. Okay. The black-robed young man responded in a low voice and returned the salute. Under his leadership, the two came to a mountain peak in the insect valley. There are several stone houses on the mountain peak. They are simple in structure. It can be seen that this Senior Brother Zhang doesn't care much about external things. There are various insect sounds coming from several stone houses, which are sharp and piercing. Most of those stone houses are insect rooms built by Junior Brother Zhang, where various kinds of strange insects are raised. Junior Brother Lu can take a look at them first. Jepu saw Lu Xuan observing the stone houses, and sent him a voice message. The three of them came to the place where the black-robed young man usually entertained guests. Zhang Jingshan handed Lu Xuan a cup of honey with a fragrant flower scent. The honey was golden yellow, and the viscous liquid kept changing into various flowers. This is the 100-flower spirit honey. It is the spirit liquid collected by the 100-flower bees from many spiritual plants and flowers, and then brewed by special means. It tastes sweet and delicious, and can also add a little spiritual power. Jepu knew the temperament of the black-robed young man very well, and took the initiative to introduce it to Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan took a sip, and suddenly, a fragrance filled his mouth and flowed through his limbs and bones, as if the whole person was deeply immersed in a sea of flowers. As the fragrance circulated, strands of spiritual power quietly generated and seeped into Lu Xuan's danshan. It's really extraordinary. Lu Xuan couldn't help but admire it. The black-robed young man raised his lips, as if he was smiling. Junior Brother Zhang, I brought the people here for you. If you need any advice or attention, please talk to Junior Brother Lu. Zhang Jingshan nodded, and a piece of talisman paper floated in front of Lu Xuan. There were dense and tiny words on the talisman paper. Lu Xuan took the talisman paper, scanned it, and immediately understood it. The talisman paper recorded a lot of information about strange insects, their living habits, breeding methods, precautions, etc., as well as all aspects of things he needed to do. In addition, there were simple control methods for the formations in the insect valley and the insect room, as well as some simple methods to control strange insects. When Lu Xuan was solving the problem of insect pests in the water peaches, he got a copy of the insect scripture from a cultivator. However, the contents only recorded some low-grade insects, and the total value was not as good as the few methods of the black-robed youth. Just based on this talisman paper, Lu Xuan felt that the trip was worthwhile. When he firmly memorized the information on the talisman paper, the black-robed youth trembled his fingers, and something shaped like a Xuan flew in front of Xuan. Chapter 262. Stop fighting. This is an insect whistle, used to control insects. Zhang Jingshan said concisely. The insect whistle is shaped like a Xuan, thin at the top and thick at the bottom. There are faint runes painted on the dark blue shell. The sound is like that of an insect or a bird, crisp and wonderful. Xuan learned from the talisman paper handed to him by the black-robed young man that the insect whistle is a magic weapon for controlling insects. It can simulate the hissing sounds of many insects and help monks better control various strange insects. The insect whistle that Zhang Jingshan handed to him still has his spiritual energy, which has a strong deterrent effect on the strange insects he raised in the insect valley. I'll leave it to you. The black-robed young man nodded to Xuan and threw him a storage bag. Then, countless thin black lines on his robe hissed together and turned into a black light that disappeared into the sky. Junior brother Lu, junior brother Zhang is always so taciturn, and it's good that he can tell you so much. He has left the Worm Valley. I guess he will go out in the next 2 days. You are responsible for all the strange insects here. This is my communication talisman. If you have any difficult problems, you can come to me. Jeppu told Xuan a few words, and the black and white take-eye pattern appeared out of thin air behind his head. His eyes flashed, and he instantly got into the black and white light. Leaving now? The two people's decisiveness made Xuan unable to adapt instantly. He was stunned for a while, and then he carefully observed the stone house and the surroundings. The stone house is probably just Zhang Jingshan's place to stay in the Worm Valley. It is very simply decorated with a few tables and chairs, a jade cushion, and nothing else. The storage bag contains a large amount of monster flesh and blood, which is stored in various ways to ensure the freshness of the meat. In addition, there are some exotic flowers and fruits, which are all used to feed various insects in the Worm Valley. He came to an insect room. There was a formation outside the insect room to prevent the strange insects inside from running out privately. Looking from the outside, the insect room was dark, as if there was no sign of life. Xuan knew that it was not that simple inside. He probed into it with his spiritual consciousness and carefully sensed it. Finally, he detected the sound of a faint breath in the corner of the insect room. He cast an exorcism spell on the roof. Under the pure white spiritual light, the strange insects in the corner were exposed to his vision. A huge mantis with a black body. The mantis was half a meter long and black all over, which blended well into the dark environment. The pair of large compound eyes on the head were also dark black. If it were not for the high protrusion, it would be difficult to detect its existence. Under the illumination of the spell, a pair of dark pupils stared at the direction where Xuan was indifferently. The most eye-catching thing is that the mantis has a pair of forelimbs like a sawtooth broadsword, glowing with a dark light, with a breathtaking and strange beauty. This should be the demon sword black mantis recorded on the talisman paper. Xuan sighed as he looked at the huge mantis lurking in the dark like an assassin. He took out a piece of monster meat from the storage bag and threw it in the direction of the black mantis. A slight whistling sound was heard, and in the perception of the spiritual consciousness, the monster meat the size of a head was instantly chopped into hundreds of pieces by the mantis's forelimbs. In a few breaths, it was all swallowed into the stomach. Xuan's mind was focused on the mantis in the dark, and soon learned detailed information about it. The demon sword black mantis is a 4th grade demon insect that feeds on monsters and insects. Its forelimbs are extremely sharp and can cut everything in the world. It is comparable to a 4th grade magic weapon and has a very strong attack. Each demon sword black mantis is a natural hunter with a strong killer instinct. It likes to stay in the dark and hunt live monsters and insects. Let's sink into the darkness together. 4th grade demon insect. Its strength is almost equivalent to that of a cultivator in the middle or even late stage of foundation building. As expected of one of the true disciples, the demon insect he raises has surpassed half of the inner disciples. Xuan couldn't help but sigh. In his own spiritual field, there was a 2nd grade silver line mantis living in the 4th grade black insect vine insect room. Judging from its appearance alone, it was much higher than the black demon sword black mantis. But if the grade strength was taken into consideration, the silver line mantis was just a silver spear candlehead, which was good looking but useless. He remembered that there was a special instruction on the talisman paper, which required the demon sword black mantis to be released for a period of time every day to move around and hunt some low-grade demon insects in the insect valley. What Lu Xuan had to do was to control its activity time and avoid encountering and fighting with other high-grade demon insects. He took out the insect whistle and injected spiritual power into one of the whistle holes. Then, a slight and strange hissing sound was heard, and he adjusted the amount and rhythm of spiritual power according to the method of controlling insects taught by Xuan Jingxian. The demon sword black mantis in the insect room turned his head and looked at Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan opened the formation, and a stream of light flashed in the thick darkness, and the demon sword black mantis instantly rushed away. He used the floating light body technique and followed closely behind the demon sword black mantis. I've only heard of people walking dogs and cats, but this is the first time I've seen a mantis walking. He sighed secretly and kept paying attention to the movements of the nearby demon sword black mantis, fearing that it would suddenly become murderous and kill all the low-grade alien insects in the insect valley. Half an hour later, he blew the insect whistle, and the black figure of the demon sword black mantis instantly appeared in front of him. It glanced at Lu Xuan and went straight back to the insect room. Although it was a 4th grade demon insect, it had already signed a master pet contract with Xuan Jingxian, and its wildness had been tamed. In addition, Lu Xuan had the insect whistle left by Xuan Jingxian in his hand, so he was not worried that the demon sword black mantis would suddenly attack him. Of course, even if this happened, Lu Xuan was not afraid at all. With his current strength, he could easily deal with this demon sword black mantis. In the insect room, Lu Xuan felt that the anxiety in the demon sword black mantis had eased a lot, probably because its strong desire to kill was released. However, they remained indifferent to Lu Xuan. Except for a few glances, when they first met, they ignored him completely the rest of the time. Lu Xuan didn't care about it. He had seen this situation many times. Whether it was the Jian Long and the alien anaconda in Qian Long Lake or the Ling tribe at the beginning, they were not much more enthusiastic than the demon sword black mantis when they first met, but in the end, they still surrendered to his robe. He restarted the insect room formation and went to the next insect room. As soon as he entered, he saw more than 10 white spiders the size of millstones fighting in a group. Each of them was 8 sword style, flying sickle-like legs, and set off bursts of whistling. "Stop. Don't fight anymore," Lu Xuan scolded. The more than 10 spiders in the insect room ignored him and continued to fight in a group. Lu Xuan took out the insect whistle and injected spiritual power into one of the holes. Suddenly, a beeping sound was heard. Under the chirping sound with special instructions he induced, more than a dozen white jade spiders stopped and crawled around on the ground, looking like they wanted to fight, but were afraid that Lu Xuan would blow the insect whistle again and speak out to stop them. Chapter 263 Glazed Sand. After seeing Lu Xuan's unfamiliar face clearly, more than a dozen white jade spiders became restless and continued to get involved in the melee. A bunch of bad little spiders. Lu Xuan sighed. The insect whistle could only control these white jade spiders for a short period of time. Without the town of Xuan Jingxian, the spiders were a little too active. Spiritual energy surged in his body, and streams of clear spiritual light fell on the white jade spider in the insect room. The purifying mantra derived from King Miaoling tea can get rid of distracting thoughts and desires, making people quiet and inactive, without desires and desires. As soon as the spiritual light fell, all the white jade spiders that were fighting in the endless melee stopped together and stayed in place quietly. Their bodies shone with white light, looking holy and peaceful. Wouldn't it be better if we did this earlier? We are all a family. It's great to love each other. Why do we need to fight and kill each other and hurt the harmony? Lu Xuan said with a kind smile on his face and squinted his eyes. He took out some insects from the storage bag, threw them into the insect room, and fed the huge spiders with bodies as white as jade. After concentrating his mind, information about the white jade spider emerged from his mind. Condensing jade spider, a 3rd grade monster insect, is extremely fast. Its steps are like blades. Its body is as hard as iron, and the white jade spider silk it spits out has both strength and toughness, and is the main material for refining many protective weapons. After spinning silk, the ninjade spider will fall into a manic state for a certain period of time, be extremely aggressive, and often fight with its own kind. It turns out to be a sequel of silk production. Lu Xuan muttered and continued to raise more than a dozen ninjade spiders. This ninjade spider is a gregarious monster insect, so Zhang Jingshan did not prevent them from fighting with each other, but opened an insect room for each ninjade spider. Most of the time, they are in a peaceful state. Only within a certain period of time after giving birth, they will become manic, violent and extremely aggressive. Once an ninjade spider falls into a manic state and actively attacks the same kind, it will easily cause the same kind to fight back, leading to a big melee. Lu Xuan took advantage of them to eat, and cast one purifying curse after another on the white jade body. After feeling that all the jade spiders were calm, he went to other insect rooms. In the third insect room, there are no traces of strange insects on the white ground, only a few small mounds formed by black and red sand. Lu Xuan's spiritual sense penetrated into it, and he discovered that there was something else inside the small mound. Countless ravines crisscross each other, like giant nets woven together, to form an extremely complex underground maze. There are faint traces of scorch on the surface of the maze passage. The insect whistle sounded, and a slight noise came from the deepest part of the underground maze. Soon, countless fist-sized dark red ants emerged from different tunnels, gathered together, and stacked upwards. It didn't take long for a strange being 2 feet tall to form, with black and red flames constantly spurting out from its surface. The dark red ant is called the Yin Fire Ant, a second-grade demon insect with certain flying abilities. It can spit out a poisonous flame that falls on the opponent's body, like gangrene attached to the bone, which cannot be dissipated for a long time. A single fire ant can be easily dealt with, but when hundreds or thousands gather together, it is more difficult. Zhang Jingshan raises such a colony of fire ants in order to practice the art of insect armor, which can control fire ants to transform into various forms. In particular, it can form a special armor with extremely strong defense and can continuously replenish fire ants. The talisman he handed to Lu Xuan recorded the simple sacrificial method of insect armor. Lu Xuan looked at the numerous fire ants that were piling up higher and higher in the insect room and suddenly became more amused. He followed the insect repelling spell on the talisman paper and used his spiritual power to create a spell. The strange existence formed by the fire ants suddenly changed, forming a human body, with hands folded and placed in front of the abdomen, shoulders shaking, and the upper body moving accordingly. This form only remained for 2.5 moments, and the entire body continued to collapse, and then collapsed. Collapse. After all, it was just a superficial use of some magic to drive monster insects, and Lu Xuan used it for the first time, so even if he just maintained his human form, he couldn't retain it for a long time. The numerous fire ants that landed on the ground were not affected in any way, and were crawling around in the insect room. Lu Xuan dropped a large piece of dark red spirit ore into the middle. Immediately, all the fire ants gathered around and used slender flame knives to cut the dark red spirit ore into countless small pieces. They dragged each of them into the ground. In the maze, this piece of spiritual ore is the ore that Zhang Jingshan left to himself to raise the fire ant colony. In Lu Xuan's spiritual sense, numerous yin fire ants collected all the fragmented ores deep in the maze, and then divided them up one by one according to strength and class. After feeding many fire ants, Lu Xuan continued to the next insect room. There are 7 or 8 strange insects in the insect room. Their shape is somewhat similar to the ladybugs in the previous life. Their backs are light white and there are 7 dark white marks scattered everywhere, forming a series of 7 stars. The strange insect is called the 7-star glazed insect, a 3rd-grade strange insect. After absorbing enough spiritual power, it can produce a strange substance called glazed sand. This glazed sand can be used to refine several rare elixirs, which are valuable. Well, to put it in layman's terms, it's the feces of a 7-star glass worm. Lu Xuan watched with his own eyes the light flashing on the back of a 7-star glass worm. One of the marks became extremely bright, and then, a glass marble was slowly pulled out from its tail. Same thing. It was crystal clear and bright, and there was a faint curl of white air rising, not just the heat, but also the aura itself. What Lu Xuan has to do, in addition to raising these 7-star glazed worms, also needs to collect these glazed sands and put them in special containers to avoid the loss of medicinal power. He entered the insect room, used an insect whistle to control the 7-star glazed worms away from him, and picked up several grains of glazed sand inside one by one. Don't tell me there is a faint fragrance. Lu Xuan's nose twitched and he sighed. I never expected that, after entering Xianji insect, I would one day come out to pick up big things. No, it's to pick up glazed sand. Lu Xuan searched every corner of the insect room and put all the glazed sand into an agarwood tree in the box. After putting them in one by one, carefully seal the agarwood box with a talisman. Although glazed sand is a 3rd grade rare treasure, and there is only one person in the insect room and even in the entire insect valley, Lu Xuan, he has no desire to covet the treasure in front of him. Although he occasionally takes advantage, such as taking blood tests for dragons in Qianlong Lake, he is still above board and upright in his conduct, and has never done anything to steal other people's treasures. Furthermore, Zhang Jingshan is the true successor of the Xianji insect. Not to mention the treasures and methods on his body. The production of the 7-star glazed worms in the insect room does not fluctuate much. It is difficult to guarantee that he will hide it from him and take away a few glazed worms without anyone noticing sand. In a sense, all the strange insects in the bug valley are his eyes and ears. Lu Xuan didn't need to take the huge risk of offending the true disciples to obtain such small benefits. If you have this skill, you might as well grow 1 or 2 spiritual plants, and the rewards of the light clusters they bloom are probably as rich as those of the glazed sand. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Atmosphere is the most important. He came to the last insect room. The insect room was filled with a foul smell, and a little bit of it made Lu Xuan dizzy and slightly uncomfortable. There were 2 hideous insects in it, with pits and pits on the surface of their bodies, green pus flowing, and poisonous smoke coming out of their breath. They were highly poisonous. According to the information left by Zhang Jingshan on the talisman paper, Lu Xuan took out several processed poisonous insects from the storage bag and threw them into the insect room. Soon, the information about these 2 poisonous insects flashed through his mind. 100 poison heart-eating insect, a 4th grade demon insect, contains various highly toxic toxins in its body, likes to eat all kinds of poisonous fruits and poisonous insects, etc., and is extremely toxic. It can act on the skin, blood, mind and other parts. If the cultivators in the middle and late stages of foundation building are not careful, it may be fatal. They hate each other and pay a lot of money to have a child. Lu Xuan was silent for a while. What does this information mean? Is it suggesting that I help them get pregnant? How could I, a famous spiritual plant master of the Xianji insect, help such an ugly monster to get pregnant? Of course, if the gold is heavy enough, it is not impossible. According to Zhang Jingshan's instructions, the pair of 4th grade 100 poison heart-eating insects in the insect room are currently in the stage of preparing for pregnancy. Zhang Jingshan spent a lot of effort to obtain the 100 poison heart-eating insect larvae, but it has been a long time without any results. It should be because they have been together for too long and have lost interest in each other. Lu Xuan thought secretly when he thought of the hint he got from the information. At this point, several rare insects in the insect room have all surfaced. The 4th grade demon sword black mantis, a natural assassin, works hard every day to spin silk, and the easily manic 3rd grade condensed jade spider. There are so many of them, and when they merge together, they are not inferior to ordinary 3rd grade demon beasts. Yin fire ant, which can pull out treasures such as glazed sand, and 100 poison heart-eating insects in the stage of preparing for pregnancy. 2 4th grade, 2 3rd grade, and 1 2nd grade that wins in number. This allows Lu Xuan to have a further understanding of the strength of the sect's true disciples. The strange insects that stayed in the insect valley alone were a force that could not be underestimated, not to mention the ones that he carried with him. Many of them were still in a state of growth, When they were fully grown, they could easily deal with an ordinary mid-stage foundation building cultivator. In addition to the insect room, the insect valley outside did not require him to spend much effort to manage and raise them. He only needed to ensure the basic operating order. In the next 1 or 2 months, he spent most of his time in the insect valley, raising various strange insects. In the dark environment that was so dense that it seemed to be real, Xuan took out more than a dozen different insects and threw them into the insect room at various angles. The black air suddenly surged violently, and a series of puffs and light sounds were heard continuously, which was extremely coherent and smooth. In the blink of an eye, a huge black mantis emerged from the darkness and came in front of Xuan. The mantis raised a pair of dark forelimbs that were like sawtooth broadswords, and the protruding dark compound eyes on its head looked at the side of the forelimbs from time to time. At this moment, the demon sword black mantis's forelimbs were covered with a thick green liquid, which could not be shaken off, no matter how hard it tried. This made it, which had always been indifferent, flash a trace of impatience in its eyes. This time, you performed well. You can kill 15 times in a row without missing anything. Unfortunately, I hid a disgusting one among the more than 10 demon insects. After you kill it, it will burst out with a sticky green liquid, which will remain on the magic weapon, and cannot be removed for a long time. Xuan looked at the demon sword black mantis that was still shaking its forelimbs, and the corners of his mouth curled up. This is also a small lesson for you, so that you know that fighting is not just based on instinct, but there are many factors that need to be mastered in your hands. He said to the demon sword black mantis earnestly. The 4th grade strange insect already has a very high intelligence. The huge black mantis nodded its little head from time to time to show that it understood. What Xuan did just now was based on a small game in his previous life and the special arrangement of the demon sword black mantis. At first, he only put 2 or 3 demon insects into the insect room and ordered the demon sword black mantis to kill the insect before it landed. If he failed to do so, the living demon insects would be released from the insect room, and the dead ones would become the demon sword black mantis's food. During this period, he kept increasing the number, adjusting the strength of the throwing, and adding various weird angles, just to satisfy the demon sword black mantis's desire to kill deep in his heart. Today, there is a new trick. He deliberately got a purely disgusting demon insect to teach it a little lesson. Such a small test made the demon sword black mantis's intimacy with him significantly increase, and it was no longer the cold and aloof appearance at the beginning. In the insect room, where the condensed jade spider is, he has been observing the signs of the white jade spider before spinning silk, such as thoughts, physical signs, behavioral patterns, etc., so as to find the specific rules of their spinning silk, so as to ensure greater production capacity and not easily fight. But there is still no clue, and nothing was found. Yin fire ant insect room. Thousands of yin fire ants condensed into a tall giant. Under Xuan's control, the giant kept changing into various forms, which made him fulfill the little wish left in his previous life. 7-star glass insect chamber. Xuan had long been accustomed to the existence of glass sand. He felt a strange sense of harvest while picking it up. Every time before entering the insect chamber, he actually had some small expectations. As for the pair of poisonous heart-eating insects, they had not moved for a long time, and they were still in a state of disgust. In addition to raising and caring for these strange insects, Xuan would return to his mountain from time to time to cultivate spiritual plants and see the little ones. Although the spiritual plants on the mountain cannot be cultivated every day, the growth state of each plant is very good, which makes Xuan feel much more at ease. On this day, when he was cultivating the fairy peach, he suddenly had an idea and collected a small half of the pink miasma below. Back in the insect chamber, he took out the white jade flask from the storage bag, pulled out the stopper, and poured the pink miasma generated by the fairy peach into the insect chamber. The color of this insect room is too monotonous and heavy. I don't feel like staying in it for a long time, let alone having that kind of thought. Today, I will build a fun insect room for the 2 of you. I guarantee that you will be full of sexual interest and fight day and night. Xuan laughed and looked at the increasingly dense pink miasma in the insect room, full of confidence. The miasma released during the growth of this fairy peach can arouse the inner desires of monks and monsters. It is a natural and powerful aphrodisiac. Perhaps it can have miraculous effect on these two uninterested 100 poisonous heart-eating insects. Sure enough, 2 days later, when he came to the insect room again and prepared to raise this pair of poisonous insects, he saw a shameful scene. The 200 poisonous heart-eating insects were tightly together, forming a word. Sounds the same as "kun" when entering and exiting. The green venom was sprayed from time to time, splashing all over each other's body, falling into the pink miasma, causing a hissing sound. It seems that the atmosphere is still the most important. Xuan admired it with relish and sighed. Chapter 265. I asked you to raise an insect, and you made it pregnant? The pink miasma filled the entire insect room, making the gray-black space more ambiguous and charming. 2 poisonous heart-eating insects entangled together, tumbling endlessly in the pink miasma. When they entered a state of being unable to restrain themselves, they could not help but make strange hissing sounds. The sound was not as gentle and beautiful as Xuan had imagined, but rather sharp and piercing, making him irritated. I was careless. I wanted to listen to the spring night insect calls, but I didn't expect that these 2 poisonous insects, even if they were enjoying themselves, the sounds they made seemed to be somewhat poisonous. Xuan shook his head and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. He wanted to observe the insects mating up close, but he didn't expect that the insect calls during the insect mating could actually cause some physical damage to him. Perhaps in the ears of these poisonous insects, this call is the most beautiful and pleasant, making the insects excited. He looked at the black insect shadows looming in the pink miasma, felt the increasingly sharp and high-pitched calls, and hurried to other insect rooms. 3 days later, he came to the insect room, where the poisonous heart-eating worms were again. The pink miasma in the insect room was much thinner than before, and the postures of the 2 poisonous heart-eating worms could be clearly seen. They were still in the shape position. Compared with the beginning, the male insect's body was much more withered, and even the poisonous gas it sprayed was intermittent and weak, as if it had been squeezed dry. The female insect's skin was smooth and moist, and it sucked the male insect's abdomen tightly to prevent it from escaping. 3 new pigeon egg-sized bumps grew on its back. Because Xuan had raised the female insect before, he could understand its current state, and thus sensed that there was a strong vitality in those black gas-filled bumps. Is it pregnant? He was happy in his heart, and seeing that the male insect seemed a little overwhelmed, he added a large amount of pink miasma to the insect room. I'll add some miasma to help you, and you must hold on for a few more days. He smiled and encouraged the dry male insect. When he came to the condensed jade spider room, there was another Malay inside, and he happened to encounter more than 10 white jade spiders fighting in a group. From time to time, slender legs like knives passed by, causing bursts of shrieks. Xuan snorted coldly, and green light fell on each condensed jade spider. All the white jade spiders immediately calmed down, and the world returned to peace and beauty. He had different ways of dealing with different fights. For condensed jade spiders, he would directly stop them and cast the purification mantra to make them quiet and inactive, without desire or demand. As for the 100 poisonous heart-eating insects, he encouraged them to fight with each other, and even used the lust miasma collected from the fairy peach to help them push from behind. After raising these condensed jade spiders for such a long time, he slowly figured out some rules. He came to the insect room many times a day to observe and record their moods, diet, behavior, etc., and then learned the detailed status of the condensed jade spiders and knew their silk spinning time one step ahead. Then, according to the specific time of silk spinning, he reversed the cause from the result and learned about their abnormality a moment before silk spinning. He found that when the jade spider was about to spin silk, its appetite increased significantly. At the same time, it also had food protection behaviors that it did not have at other times. In addition, the jade spider that was about to produce silk would take the initiative to stay away from the ground and would rather stay on the low altitude spider web. These behaviors seemed very common, and every jade spider might have similar behaviors, but if all 3 were present, it was likely that it was about to produce silk. Xuan secretly noted it down and decided to use some time to verify his observations. In the insect room of the demon sword black mantis, a slight whooshing sound was heard in the thick darkness. One by one, the strange insects were neatly cut into two halves by the dark blade, and each half was evenly symmetrical. Occasionally, an insect would be picked out and fall in front of Lu Xuan. Except for a slight dizziness in the head, it was not hurt at all. This type of insect is naturally a type with a lot of smelly liquid in its body. The demon sword black mantis learned from the previous lesson and distinguished this type of insect as soon as possible before quickly chopping it, and avoided them with lightning speed. Not bad. It's almost the achievement of 30 consecutive kills. Lu Xuan exclaimed in admiration. He was amazed by the hunting talent of the demon sword black mantis. In less than 2 months, it could kill more than 30 strange insects in a flash, and at the same time distinguish the bombs. While stimulating instincts, it can also achieve extremely delicate and accurate control, sending and receiving from the heart, like an antelope hanging horns. In the darkness, there was an almost inaudible chewing sound, and soon, the black head of the demon sword black mantis came out, and a pair of huge black compound eyes looked at Lu Xuan. It loved this little game that Lu Xuan tailored for it. Being able to stay in a comfortable and cozy dark environment, killing strange insects with greater difficulty, getting full exercise, and better satisfying its desire to kill. With the indifferent and ruthless character of the demon sword black mantis, it can take the initiative to show its body from the darkness, which already represents the greatest intimacy with Lu Xuan. The strange insects in the other 2 insect rooms also have very good growth potential. After 2 months of raising the yin fire ants, Lu Xuan was already able to control them very well. With a flash of his mind, hundreds of thousands of yin fire ants were at his fingertips, and he could control them freely. In 1 or 2 breaths, they could transform into the transformers in Lu Xuan's memory, which was quite cool. As for the remaining 7 star glass worms, Lu Xuan raised the most suitable food for them, based on his understanding of their physical conditions, and also summarized their defecation. The pattern of excreting glass sand. Time flies, and more than 3 months have passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, just as he had raised all the strange insects in the insect room, and was about to return to his residence, a black light instantly fell in the valley. Countless slender black insects hissed and gradually condensed into a human figure. It was the true disciple, Zhang Jingshan, who had been away for more than 3 months. He looked at Lu Xuan quietly. "Brother Zhang, you're back." Lu Xuan had already understood that the true disciple in front of him was extremely introverted and dull, so he took the initiative to greet him. "Yeah." Zhang Jingshan nodded gently. "Brother, do you want to take a break or take a look at the strange insects in the insect room first?" "Let's take a look," Zhang Jingshan said softly. He had been away for several months and had no choice but to leave behind a few strange insects. Although Jepu tried his best to recommend Lu Xuan, he knew that Lu Xuan had only been promoted to an inner disciple for a few years. Even if he had a unique talent in raising spirit beasts, his breeding experience could not be made up in a short time. Therefore, even if he trusted Jepu and Lu Xuan enough, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Lu Xuan took Zhang Jingshan to the insect room, where the 100 poisonous heart-eating insects were. "During the time when brother was away, I thought of some ways to induce this pair of 100 poisonous heart-eating insects to mate for many days, and finally successfully conceived," Lu Xuan said slowly. Hearing his words, Zhang Jingshan turned back suddenly and stared at Lu Xuan closely. "I just asked you to help raise the insects, but you made them pregnant?" Chapter 266 Lightning struck wood. After hearing Lu Xuan's words, Zhang Jingshan subconsciously couldn't believe it. He looked inside the insect room. The first thing that caught his eye was the still thin male insect, lying quietly on the ground, motionless. After several days of fighting, even though Lu Xuan used the poisonous insects in the insect valley to nourish it every day, the male insect still looked exhausted. Behind the male insect, the female insect huddled quietly in the corner, and the 3 bumps on its back were very conspicuous. The moment he saw the 3 bumps, Zhang Jingshan's pupils shrank slightly, and he was happy and surprised at the same time. Getting this pair of poisonous heart-eating insects pregnant has been a major problem that has troubled him in recent years. The 100 poisonous heart-eating worms are of the 4th grade. The higher the grade, the more difficult it is to breed offspring. In addition, this pair of 100 poisonous heart-eating worms was cultivated by him since childhood, and they were as close as brothers to each other. The family affection far exceeded the love, so no matter how many ways he thought of, he couldn't successfully make them pregnant. Unexpectedly, when he went out, he found that this pair of 100 poisonous heart-eating worms were secretly pregnant behind his back. How did you do it? It was a bit inappropriate to ask directly, as it might involve some of Lu Xuan's privacy, but Zhang Jingshan was so curious that he couldn't help asking. I used a kind of aphrodisiac miasma from the spiritual plants I planted myself, and the effect seems to be good, Lu Xuan said with a smile. In order to successfully conceive a pair of 100 poison heart-devouring insects, he consumed most of the pink miasma produced by the magic peach spiritual plant. He cultivated several magic peach spiritual plants to get that amount of miasma. A large amount of miasma, plus the emotional foundation between the 100 poison heart-devouring insects, made it successful. Therefore, this method cannot be used frequently. Zhang Jingshan heard this and nodded, without further questioning. The two came to the insect room where the demon sword black mantis was. Brother, wait a moment. When I was cultivating this mantis demon insect, I suddenly thought of a small game that can train the demon sword black mantis's killing skills, stimulate its killing instinct, and cultivate intimacy with it. Just as Zhang Jingshan was about to step into the insect room, Lu Xuan stopped him. Then, dozens of strange insects shot into the depths of darkness at different angles and times, and Zhang Jingshan saw the magical ability of the demon sword black mantis to cut strange insects in the dark. Not bad. He nodded in admiration. With his true disciple's vision, he could see at a glance that this little game had a great promoting effect on the growth of the demon sword black mantis. Lu Xuan's wonderful ideas made him feel bright. After the demon sword black mantis devoured all the strange insect corpses cut in half, it silently emerged from the darkness and looked at Lu Xuan. Only then did it discover its master next to it. It was obviously me who came first. Zhang Jingshan sighed silently, and such a thought flashed through his mind inexplicably. He had a ridiculous feeling that his beloved thing was taken away in front of him. However, the surprise Lu Xuan brought him was not over yet. The insect room, where the Ningyu spider was. In a corner of the insect room, Lu Xuan isolated 3 small quiet rooms. A white jade spider the size of a millstone was quietly laying silk in it. In the other 2 rooms, 2 jade spiders were restlessly crawling around, wanting to fight, but unable to find their targets. Brother Zhang, when I was raising these jade spiders, I accidentally discovered 3 small abnormalities before they laid silk. Their appetite increased, they had food protection behavior, and they actively avoided friction on their abdomens. After discovering these, we can easily find the jade spiders that are about to lay silk and isolate them from the normal spiders and release them after they have calmed down so that there will be no more melee. This is a silk spinning timetable I made. It records the approximate silk spinning time of jade spiders with different serial numbers so they can be isolated in advance. Of course, if you want to get more detailed and accurate times, you still need to do some experiments and statistics. Lu Xuan handed Zhang Jingshan a table with a lot of data. The table data was detailed, simple and clear, which made Zhang Jingshan nod repeatedly. The insect room, where the 7-star glass worm is located. Brother Zhang, this is the glass sand I have collected in the past 3 months. After confirming that all the 7-star glass worms were growing well, Lu Xuan took out an agarwood box from his storage bag. Zhang Jingshan glanced at it, his expression calm on the surface, but he exclaimed in his heart. The amount of glass sand Lu Xuan handed in was more than he had imagined. According to his usual experience when cultivating 7-star glass worms, it would be impossible to get this amount of glass sand in 3 months. There was only one possibility, that Lu Xuan took better care of these 7-star glass worms than usual, thereby increasing the production of glass sand. In his original idea, it didn't matter if the amount of glass sand Lu Xuan handed in was less than normal. Even if Lu Xuan was a little greedy, he would turn a blind eye and pretend that he didn't see it. But the larger amount of glass sand made him not know how to deal with it. Back in the stone house, he thought about the things in the several insect rooms, and his heart became more and more satisfied. Brother Lu, are you willing to stay in the insect valley for a long time and help me raise the monster insects? He thought for a moment and suddenly asked. Lu Xuan was stunned, and a thought flashed through his mind. He smiled and refused. Thank you for your kindness, senior brother Zhang. I'm used to being lazy. I prefer to take care of and cultivate spiritual plants and spiritual beasts by myself. Okay. Zhang Jingshan said nothing more. He was also of this character, so he understood the decision made by Lu Xuan. It was just because Lu Xuan was too good at raising demon insects that he couldn't help asking. Thank you for your hard work, junior brother, he said in a deep voice. Before he finished speaking, a bunch of sword prints floated in front of Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan knew that this was the reward for his hard work for several months, so he took it without hesitation. I got this lightning struck wood by chance. It is full of vitality and should be able to be raised. A piece of dry wood stopped in front of Lu Xuan. There were burnt marks all over the wood, which were intertwined together like a series of lightning patterns. It looked like a dead wood on the outside, but when the spiritual consciousness probed into the inside, it could feel a special vitality born from destruction. Lu Xuan seemed to see a huge spiritual tree being struck by the surging power of thunder and lightning, and burned instantly, leaving only a small piece of lightning-struck wood that was still alive. With so many sword seals and a piece of rare lightning-struck wood, are the true disciples so rich? Lu Xuan took the dry wood and couldn't help but sigh. Even if this piece of lightning-struck wood cannot be cultivated, it can be used to make flying swords, wooden talismans and other magical tools, and it is precious. Thinking of helping Jepu solve the promotion problem of Yunyang Kunaiu before, he got a sword order from him, and had the opportunity to enter the Langaiu Blessed Land, and obtained huge opportunities such as Phoenix Wood and Demon Ghost Vine. Now, just for helping to raise the demon insects for a few months, Zhang Jingshan, who is also a true disciple, gave him hundreds of sword seals and a piece of rare lightning-struck wood. This gave Lu Xuan a more intuitive understanding of the wealth of the true disciples. Chapter 267, Thunderwood Spring Rain Sword Intent. After bidding farewell to Zhang Jingshan, Lu Xuan returned to the cave. Although it took a long time to help raise the strange insects this time, he was very satisfied with the harvest. The 300 sword seals alone were enough for his 3 months of hard work. 300 sword seals can at least exchange for a 4th grade spiritual seed, not to mention a piece of rare lightning-struck wood. The fact that this piece of lightning-struck wood can remain alive under the thunder of 10,000 pounds shows how extraordinary it is. He couldn't wait to come to the spiritual field and find a blank area covered with wuling soil. The spiritual power surged, and the earth drawing technique quietly changed the structure of the spiritual soil. A crack slightly larger than the root of the lightning-struck wood appeared in the spiritual field. Lu Xuan buried the dry wood in the crack, and with his mind concentrated, a thought flashed through his mind. Falling Thunderwood, a 4th grade spiritual plant, is a special spiritual wood that retains a trace of vitality under the thunder of 10,000 pounds. It has a certain attraction to thunder. After maturity, it can be used to refine wooden talismans, flying swords, seals and other magical instruments. It naturally comes with the breath of thunder and lightning, which has a restraining effect on evil spirits. Under the nourishment and stimulation of the natural power of thunder and lightning, the thunderwood can grow at an extremely fast speed. Strike me as much as you want. What can't kill me will only make me stronger. The Thunderwood, a 4th grade spiritual plant, a mere spiritual plant, is quite dignified. Lu Xuan sighed. After enduring endless thunder and lightning, the Thunderwood actually inspired endless fighting spirit, and took the initiative to attract thunder, which made him look at it with favor. The grey vines of the demon ghost vine under his feet sneaked into the spiritual soil, trying to leave their own unique mark. As soon as it touched the roots of the Thunderwood, a slight thunder and lightning aura surged from the depths, causing the vines to instantly feel a strong numbness and tremble involuntarily. Lu Xuan ignored the demon ghost vine that took the initiative to tease, and the Zunlei sword pill in his danshan rotated slightly, and black sword beam shot out and hit the Thunderwood. It has a little effect, but it's still not good enough. He felt the instant state from the Thunderwood and muttered in a low voice. There are countless sword beams in the Zunlei sword pill, and the sword beams carry the power of wind and thunder. He thought about stimulating the falling Thunderwood to see if it can be used to cultivate spiritual wood. The effect is average, not as good as the power of natural thunder and lightning. He then took off the Xuan sword sheath on his waist. The trembling of the ancient scabbard, he pulled out the purple lightning sword that had been inserted in it. The purple lightning sword is shaped like lightning, with a peculiar shape, and with the power of thunder and lightning, it makes the inside of the scabbard a little unbearable. Lu Xuan held the dark purple flying sword, and made a sword flower. Suddenly, a dark purple electric light hit the center of the falling thunderwood. The lightning power carried by the purple lightning sword is better. Lu Xuan nodded with satisfaction. With the purple lightning sword, at least there is no need to worry about the falling thunderwood not being able to grow normally in the early stage. After planting the falling thunderwood, he continued to inspect the spiritual field and check the growth status of each spiritual plant in the spiritual field. After staying in the Zongjing Mountain Worm Valley for a few months, the spiritual plants in the spiritual field have grown a lot. The 4th grade magic bamboo grew a section of glazed jade bamboo. There were many cracks densely distributed on the slender green bamboo. Each crack sang its own sound. When combined, it formed a noisy and strange sound, which made people feel upset. Only when the demon ghost vine appeared, all the tiny cracks closed at the same time, and it was as quiet as a chicken. The surroundings suddenly became much quieter. The Tibetan yuan grass sent by the Dan Palace, and asked Lu Xuan to cultivate it, also took root and sprouted. It looked ordinary on the outside, just like wild weeds. If it weren't for the spiritual consciousness, to carefully detect the rich spiritual energy deep in the spiritual grass, it would probably be ignored directly. The 5-element fruit gave birth to a group of hazy spiritual objects, with only vague branches and leaves, and various colors of spiritual light rotating on it, giving people a sense of colorfulness and overflowing spiritual power. The wood spirit is the strongest at this time. Wood generates fire, so we should use fire spirit to nurture and cultivate it. Lu Xuan's spirit sensed the changes in the spirit power in the 5-element fruit seedlings, and he operated the great 5-element gong. A ray of fiery red spirit power penetrated into the blurred branches and leaves of the 5-element fruit. The green light of the 5-element fruit rose, and then quickly melted away. The red spirit power increased a lot in a short period of time. After simply cultivating the 5-element fruit with the power of the 5-element, Lu Xuan came to the nearby soul-enriching pine. A wave of the purest thoughts came from the 4 soul-enriching pine plants, and the green pine leaves moved without wind, causing waves of pine waves. Feeling the dependence of the soul-enriching pine on himself, Lu Xuan smiled slightly, and used his spirit sense to communicate and comfort the 4 spirit plants. In other spiritual fields, the first planted 4th grade black insect vine seemed to have grown many strange insect limbs and bodies. Many monster insects of different shapes crawled in and out, establishing a very harmonious symbiotic relationship with the black insect vine. In the tributary of the earth fire, on the fiery red petals of the earth fire heart lotus, there are faintly small lotus pods growing, with fingertip-sized light red lotus seeds growing inside, absorbing the hot magma that falls into the petals. In the sky, the red lotus rooted in the phoenix tree is much smaller than at the beginning, but the inside is more condensed, dancing happily among the petals. After a while, there will be another red lotus flame. Lu Xuan sighed and came to the edge of the small lake. A sword grass has matured. Perhaps because the spring rain sword energy in the 4-seasoned sword art contains stronger vitality, Lu Xuan found that the progress bar under a sword grass has been full. Of the 10 sword grass spirit seeds left to him by Shenyi, 8 were cultivated with the 4-seasoned sword energy, 1 was cultivated with the sword energy warmed in the scabbard of the red flame sword, and the last 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass was cultivated with the Zunlei sword light. A spring rain sword energy hit the mature sword grass, and suddenly, countless fine sword energy shot out from around the sword grass, like a drizzle, continuous and dreamlike. The joints of his palms emerged with glass light, tightly grasped the middle of the sword grass that was shaped like a sword blade, and slowly pulled it out. A natural sword weapon. During the pulling process, the drizzle sword energy quietly merged into the sword grass. Lu Xuan looked at the plant, that was as straight as a sword in his hand, and couldn't help but sigh. With his mind focused, a thought flashed through his mind. Sword grass, a 2nd grade spiritual plant, shaped like a sword blade, nourished by spring rain sword energy for a long time, a natural sword weapon, superior quality sword grass, not bad. After all, 4 seasoned sword art is a practice method in the foundation building stage, which is much stronger than the first grade Genjin sword art. In addition, the inner sect's spiritual energy is more rich and pure. Even if less energy is spent on the sword grass, a superior quality plant can still be obtained. Lu Xuan didn't pay too much attention and focused on the white light ball that appeared in the spiritual soil. He reached out and gently touched the surface of the light ball. Suddenly, the light ball turned into countless tiny sword ki and instantly poured into Lu Xuan's body. A thought emerged from his mind. Harvest a second grade sword grass and obtain the spring rain sword intent. The thought flashed through Lu Xuan's mind, and an invisible sword intent poured into his sea of consciousness, like the spring rain falling, continuous and dense, gentle but with murderous intent. In an instant, his understanding of the spring rain sword technique in the 4 seasoned sword art reached an extremely profound level. If he had remained at the level of technique before, after absorbing this sword intent in the light ball, he could be said to have comprehended the invisible existence of momentum. Chapter 268 Very smooth. Lu Xuan was blessed with a spiritual power, and the purple lightning sword in his hand danced naturally. As the sword energy was crisscrossing, a drizzle quietly appeared around him, like smoke and fog, and it was endless. It seemed ordinary, but in fact it was countless spring rain sword energy condensed together. As long as Lu Xuan's mind moved, it could instantly burst out with powerful killing. The purple sword of the purple sword was attached with the power of thunder and lightning. In the continuous spring rain, lightning flashed occasionally, with a natural and harmonious charm. After a little experience of the enhancement of his sword tactics by the spring rain sword intent, Lu Xuan was about to put away the purple sword, when he glanced at the Xuan sword sheath hanging on his waist. I wonder what effect it will bring, if the spring rain sword intent is sent to the sword sheath to warm it up. Lu Xuan suddenly had an idea, and a part of the drizzle sword energy fell, and pierced into the crack of the sword sheath. That's it? Lu Xuan seemed to feel the thoughts of the Xuan sword sheath. The spring rain sword energy as thin as a hair made the Xuan sword sheath, which had already turned into the shape of the purple sword, almost imperceptible. After injecting enough spring rain sword energy, Lu Xuan's spiritual sense probed into the scabbard. There was a moist breath lingering everywhere. He chuckled and inserted the purple lightning sword in his hand into the scabbard fiercely. It was smooth all the way. Very moist. Lu Xuan simply commented. Deep in the scabbard, after being moistened by enough spring rain sword energy, the purple lightning sword was in a muddy environment, and the curved sword body was difficult to extricate. He planned to keep the second grade sword grass he picked in the storage bag for the time being, and wait until the remaining sword grasses are all mature, before handing it over to Shenyi in the sword hall. In order to maximize the light ball reward, he only waited until each sword grass was fully mature before picking it. Other cultivators who cultivated sword grass could not know the best time for the sword grass to mature. They could only rely on experience and spiritual sense perception to estimate that, after entering the mature period, they would pick them all at once and hand them over in batches to the sword hall. Lu Xuan estimated that it would not take long for the 8 second grade sword grasses to mature one after another, so he was not in a hurry to pick them. By the way, I promised Bailey Giant King that I would give him a sword grass. I wonder how he's doing lately. Lu Xuan thought to himself, planning to find a chance to visit his old friend. He continued to inspect the spiritual field and came to the place where the sword raising goods were planted. There were 2 green and mottled goods hanging on the vines. The sound of sword energy was faintly heard from the goods, as if a powerful sword energy would penetrate the goods and shoot out at any time. Another one is ripe. Lu Xuan noticed that a sword raising good at the lower position was fully ripe and carefully picked it. As soon as the good was in his hand, a white light ball quietly hung on the vine, flickering slightly, attracting Lu Xuan to pick it up. Lu Xuan reached out and touched it gently, and the white light ball turned into countless tiny lightsabers, pouring into Lu Xuan's body. Then, a thought emerged in his mind. Harvest a 3rd grade sword raising good, and obtain a 4th grade Great Sun sword talisman. A talisman with a red sun hanging in the middle appeared in Lu Xuan's palm. Countless red sword keys spread out in all directions with the red sun as the center, so dense that it seemed as if the sun was illuminating the whole world. The talisman was the 4th grade Great Sun sword talisman that he had obtained before. It contained endless Great Sun sword ki. When it was activated, it was like the scorching sun in the sky, which was breathtaking. If you looked directly at it, you would be blinded if you were not careful. It could also severely injure or even kill cultivators in the middle and late stages of foundation building, and its power was even stronger than that of the Roaring Sea Sword Talisman. 4 4th grade sword talismans have been harvested from the 4 sword raising gods, 2 each from the Roaring Sea Sword Talisman and the Great Sun Sword Talisman. Most of the sword key in one of the Roaring Sea Sword Talismans was consumed in the Langayu Blessed Land. The 4th grade sword talisman was almost his most powerful means of attack at present. After a brief thought, Lu Xuan decided to cultivate a few more sword raising gourds. A gourd vine could produce several sword raising gourds. Not to mention the precious value of the gourds themselves, the sword talismans rewarded by the light ball alone were worth planting again. He carefully cultivated the spiritual fields around the mountain, and since it was still early, he decided to go to the Sinnoh Hall to buy a few spiritual seeds for the sword raising gourd. By the way, he also solved the problem of not choosing a method to condense spiritual seeds when he was promoted to the foundation building stage. At that time, he could freely choose a method to condense spiritual seeds for 1 3rd grade spiritual plant and 3 2nd grade spiritual plants. Although he was quite satisfied with the method of condensing the 3rd grade spiritual seeds, he decided to see if there were other varieties with more generous rewards. For the 2nd grade, he had already decided on 2 of them, the fiery flame fruit and the ice wisteria fruit planted on the mountain. The 2 2nd grade spiritual fruits, the light balls after maturity, are quite generous rewards, and the number of spiritual fruits on each spiritual tree is not small. Of course, the more important thing is that the 2 spiritual fruits have their own wonderful tastes, and eating them together has a complementary effect. In order to satisfy his own appetite, and to better entertain Xuanshan Bailuan and Baiyu Qingshan Yuan, it was natural to choose the method to condense the spiritual seeds of these 2 spiritual fruits. Sinnoh Hall. Lu Xuan took a glance at the spacious outer hall, but he did not see the old farmer monk whom he had met many times before. So, without any hesitation, he entered the inner hall under the curious and respectful gazes of the outer disciples. Only inner disciples were qualified to enter the inner hall. He looked around and came to a monk with ordinary appearance and a restrained and calm temperament. He had some impression of this person. His name was Zhang Se. He had just been promoted to the foundation building stage. When he entered the inner hall, he was entertained by him. Senior brother Zhang. Junior brother Lu. Long time no see. The young man looked up at Lu Xuan. His eyes flashed with confusion, but fortunately he still had some impression, and immediately remembered Lu Xuan, whom he had met once a long time ago. It's been a long time since we last met. Senior brother, your cultivation has become more and more sophisticated. Haha, junior brother, you are too kind. I wonder what important matter is here for you in Sinnoh Hall this time. I want to buy a few 3rd grade sword raising good spirit seeds. In addition, I want to choose 2 2nd grade spirit plant spirit seed condensation methods, namely flaming fruit and ice radish fruit. After being promoted to an inner disciple, I have kept this sect benefit and made a decision recently. Lu Xuan said with a smile. Okay, please give me the identity token for my review. I need to confirm whether you are qualified. The calm young man said gently. Lu Xuan took out the identity token and handed it to the calm young monk. Regarding the spirit seed condensation method, the calm young man did not dare to be careless. After confirming again and again, he returned the identity token to Lu Xuan and entered the depths of Sinnoh Hall. Junior brother Lu, each of these 2 jade slips records the spirit seed condensation method you requested. After absorbing it, the jade slip will turn into powder. Junior brother must be cautious when using it. Zhang Sen instructed Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan nodded heavily and then spent 270 sword seals to exchange 3 sword raising good spirit seeds from the young man. The good spirit seeds were light green, flat and long, about 1.5 inches long. At first glance, they looked like 3 pocket swords. Thank you, senior brother Zhang. After Lu Xuan confirmed that it was correct, he bowed to the calm young man to express his gratitude and then left the Sinnoh Hall. Chapter 269, Draining 1,000 dragon blood in one day. Lu Xuan returned to the mountain, found an empty spiritual field, performed the earth drawing technique, and buried 3 sword-raising good spirit seeds in the spiritual soil. Immediately, spiritual power surged, and strands of spiritual rain fell down, seeping into the spiritual soil, fully nourishing the sword-raising good spirit seeds. After triggering the vitality of the good spirit seeds, he took out several second-hand flying swords from the storage bag, and placed them around the spirit seeds, allowing them to absorb the remaining sword intent inside. There are not many other things in Giantman Town, but there are many casual cultivators. You can buy a lot of second-hand flying swords at a low price by just taking a casual trip. Lu Xuan prepared a lot of them in his storage bag. After planting the sword-raising good, he returned to the house, took out the 2 jade slips engraved with the method of refining the flame fruit and ice radish fruit spirit seeds, and put them on his forehead. The spiritual consciousness entered the jade slips, and then a lot of information instantly flooded into his mind like a flood. About the method of refining the 2 spirit seeds, the timing, precautions, storage methods, etc. I have obtained the methods to condense the 2 spiritual seeds of fiery fruit and ice wisteria fruit. I can realize the freedom of spiritual fruits in the future. Lu Xuan couldn't help but sigh. The next day, he got up early in the morning, walked around the spiritual field, and rewarded the grass puppet that worked day and night with a wisp of greenwood source energy, which instantly made its body overgrown with weeds, and full of greenery. After cultivating all the spiritual plants, he planned to go to Xuan Long Lake to visit his old friends, and give a physical examination to the hundreds of thousands of dragons and anacondas in Xuan Long Lake. He originally thought that the large amount of dragon blood essence he had drawn before could be used for many years. But after the appearance of the 5th grade blood evil flower, a big bloodsucker, there were still a few hundred bottles of dragon blood essence, which was not enough. In addition, he practiced Taeksuhua Longpian and cultivated gyro vines, so he decided to go and pull another wave of dragon blood essence to be prepared. Xuan Long Lake. Lu Xuan sat on a spiritual crane, looking at the familiar wooden house below, feeling emotional. Apart from his own cave, this was the place where he spent the longest time in the sect. I wonder how those dragon cubs I raised before are doing now. While he was in a daze, the tall spiritual crane landed gracefully. In the stone house, the cultivators who sensed the movement outside came out one after another, and looked at Lu Xuan. Lu. Uncle Lu. Walking in the front was Huang Yuan, who was still in charge of this area of water. The moment he saw Lu Xuan, he subconsciously wanted to greet him as his junior brother, but he immediately realized that things were different now, and changed his address instantly. Lu Xuan had raised dragons under him for quite a long time. The little junior brother who followed behind him before has now become his uncle who needs to look up to build the foundation. Huang Yuan felt a little uncomfortable, but the gap in cultivation was right in front of him, so he couldn't let himself be presumptuous. Nephew Huang. Lu Xuan nodded gently. I didn't know Uncle Lu was coming. I'm sorry for not welcoming you. Please forgive me, Uncle. Huang Yuan quickly adjusted his mentality and said seriously. It's okay. I've been here for so long before. With you and other acquaintances here, there's no need to be so formal. Lu Xuan waved his hand. Huang Yuan welcomed Lu Xuan into the stone house and served him spiritual fruits and spiritual tea. After chatting for a while, Lu Xuan noticed that some cultivators were carrying huge wooden barrels to raise dragons and pythons, so he turned to Huang Yuan and said, Junior brother Huang, can you take me to the wooden platform where I raised dragons before? It's been so long, I miss them a lot. Okay, I'll arrange it right away. Huang Yuan naturally couldn't refuse the request made by the foundation building uncle. After a simple preparation, he took a large amount of the freshest monster meat and went to the wooden platform where Lu Xuan used to raise dragons. After the uncle left, because there were breakthroughs among the batch of dragons, and they were well trained by the uncle, this area of water became a must-fight place for many brothers. However, as time passed, for some reason, the dragons no longer lined up for meals, like they did at the beginning, and gradually became the same as the dragons in other waters. On the way, Huang Yuan gave Lu Xuan a detailed introduction to his previous raising of dragons. Lu Xuan nodded, indicating that he understood. He had used both kindness and force when raising the dragons, and specially customized a diet for each dragon, so that he could control them well. Even if the later ones use the same species and amount of monster meat to raise the dragons and pythons, they could not feed them as accurately as he did, and could not satisfy them to the greatest extent, so they would gradually lose control. As soon as he stepped onto the stage, he saw dozens of dragons and pythons fighting for the monster meat thrown down. The waves were surging, and the roars spread far away. From time to time, dragons and pythons were injured because of the fierce competition, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. You are like this, which makes me very disappointed, Xuan said softly, and the faint spiritual pressure spread out, suppressing all the dragons and pythons of the first and second grades. The moment they heard Xuan's voice, nearly half of the dragons and pythons raised their heads, and after seeing his familiar figure, they subconsciously returned to their original cues. The remaining ones that did not move were all the new dragons and pythons that were added after Xuan left. Seeing this scene, Xuan's mouth curled up, and pieces of fresh monster meat flew out of the wooden barrel, sorted and accurately placed in the area where the dragons were every day. You remember me, Lu? I'm very touched. But the blood still needs to be drawn, Xuan thought secretly in his heart. This time, in addition to visiting these little dragons and acquaintances such as Huang Daoyao, I'm mainly concerned about the health problems of hundreds of thousands of dragons in Qianlong Lake, so I took the time to give them a comprehensive examination. He turned to Huang Yuan and others and said, "It is a blessing for those first and second grade dragons to be remembered by Uncle Lu." Huang Yuan's expression was full of gratitude. Xuan had previously conducted a full physical examination for the dragons and pythons in the outer waters of Qianlong Lake, and even found out the scourge of hidden scalefish, so as to prevent the outer disciples who raised dragons from suffering heavy losses. They have always been grateful in their hearts. After such a long time, although they really want Xuan to check again, they know that they are not qualified to invite a foundation building master, so they can only keep it in their hearts and pay more attention to the breeding process. Unexpectedly, Xuan took the initiative to help all the dragons to do a comprehensive inspection again. With his lofty status as an inner disciple, he was able to put down his status and come to help a group of ordinary dragon raising monks with no background in his busy schedule. He really. Huang Yuan and others were inexplicably moved, and their eyes looked at Xuan with a little more admiration. "Uncle Lu, wait a moment. I will contact fellow disciples in other waters and let them prepare." "Okay." Xuan put his hands behind his back and nodded with a relaxed expression. Looking at the vast lake in front of him, he suddenly felt heroic. The spring breezes, so proud that the red thread is so fast that it can draw out the blood of thousands of dragons in one day. My red thread needle is already thirsty. A red thread flew around him quickly. Chapter 270. Old friends. Line up. Come one by one. Take good care of your dragons. Don't let them cause trouble and waste Master Lu's time. In Qianlong Lake, hundreds of dragons and pythons were neatly lined up in rows, with a cultivator standing guard at each distance, and imitation dragon binding rings were on standby to prevent the dragons from being restless. In order to save Xuan's time, Huang Yuan took the initiative to call fellow disciples from other waters of Qianlong Lake, asking them to bring their dragons and pythons for a physical examination. A communication talisman flew in front of Huang Yuan, and he listened to the voice transmission on it, frowning. "Junior brother Zhang, I'll tell you again, Master Lu came here to help the dragons with a physical examination in his busy schedule, and he won't leave you too much time. Is this important to you in refining pills? If the dragons and pythons you raise have any physical problems in the future, don't blame me for not notifying you in time." He left a few words on the communication talisman, loosened his palm, and let the communication talisman shuttle into the mountains. "Really? You didn't see such a good opportunity? If you fail in alchemy, you can try again immediately. If you don't check the dragon, I don't know when Uncle Lu will come next time." Huang Yuan muttered, walked to the front of the team, and looked at Xuan, who was probing the dragon's body with his fingers flying, with a flash of respect in his eyes. "Come, eat a piece of meat, don't be nervous, it's just a blood draw," Xuan said softly to the black dragon in front of him. Checking the dragons in Qianlong Lake is of course out of sincerity and for their health. As for blood draw, it's just a side job. or thought flashed through his mind, and the spiritual consciousness of the foundation building realm quickly scanned every part of the dragon's skin, flesh, and bones. After confirming that there was no problem, he thought, and a red needle pierced the dragon's scales, and a stream of hot blood spurted out from the hole. All of it poured into a white jade bottle that Lu Xuan had prepared long ago, without a drop left. Compared with the blood volume of the dragon itself, the amount he took was not much. He only needed to rest for a few days to recover. In front of his own health, this little blood was nothing. Compared with the last blood test, although it was still the familiar red needle, Lu Xuan's spiritual power and spiritual awareness were more than 10 times stronger. In addition to saving some time on the road, the blood drawing efficiency was extremely high. It took several days to draw blood from the dragons in the outer waters before, but now it is estimated that it can be done in half a day. During the inspection, no fish similar to the hidden scales were found. Only in some young dragons, parasitic monsters were found lurking. In addition, some hidden diseases left by dragons after fighting for food and territory were pointed out. When they saw him pull out the slender parasitic monsters from the flesh and bones of the dragon, everyone present felt that the trip was worthwhile and was full of gratitude. Junior brother Lu, please stay. After checking all the dragons and pythons, Lu Xuan was about to leave when a clear voice came from behind him. Lu Xuan turned his head and saw a refined scholar looking at him with a smile. With a quick scan of his spiritual sense, he found that the scholar's cultivation level was similar to his, both at the early stage of foundation building. I wonder what's the important matter, senior brother? Lu Xuan asked in confusion. I'm Tao Ziking, and I've heard about your accomplishments in spiritual plants and spiritual beasts. Today, I heard that you came to help the outer disciples check the physical condition of the dragons under my command, so I came to take a look. I have some dragons and monsters in the center of Qianlong Lake, most of which are of the 3rd and 4th grades. I called you to help check them. The refined scholar said slowly. Okay. The customer has been upgraded. Lu Xuan was happy in his heart, but his expression did not change. The dragons and pythons he had just checked were all at the 1st and 2nd grades, and he was already quite satisfied. Unexpectedly, there were dragons at the 3rd and 4th grades who took the initiative to deliver themselves to his door. Zuni Hua is in for a treat. He sighed in his heart and looked at Tao Ziking with a smile. Since senior brother Tao has invited me, I dare not disobey him. Please lead the way. Haha, junior brother Lu, I will remember this favor. The elegant scholar laughed heartily and led Lu Xuan into the central area of Qianlong Lake. Qianlong Lake stretches for hundreds of miles. The 1st and 2nd grade dragons and pythons raised by Huang Yuan and others all live in the periphery. After they break through and advance, they can enter the inner lake to live and practice. The black-scaled dragon that Lu Xuan solved a long time ago was raised on a small island in the center of the lake by Yang Qingfeng, who was in the middle stage of the foundation building realm. Senior brother Tao raised many dragons in the inner lake? Lu Xuan asked the elegant scholar curiously, while flying on the sword. Not many, more than 10, mainly in the 3rd grade realm, and 2 in the 4th grade. The deeper into the inner lake, the more arrays and restrictions are arranged. Tao Ziking answered, while removing the restrictions. Although there are hundreds or even thousands of dragons and pythons in Qianlong Lake, only a few of them have grown to the foundation building stage, and they are raised by several inner disciples. By the way, junior brother Lu, are you an old acquaintance of senior brother Yang Qingfeng? The elegant scholar suddenly asked. Yes, I helped senior brother Yang solve a small problem before. Lu Xuan remembered the little black-scaled dragon with extraordinary talent, who did not like flesh and blood, but loved spiritual fruits. He has a black-scaled dragon under his command, whose bloodline talent is extremely outstanding. It is said that he has the talent to be promoted to a 5th grade demon beast, but it is rumored that he has such talent because of the bloodline of other dragons. I wonder if junior brother Lu has heard of it? Not only have I heard of it, but I also found out through examination. But how did this news leak out? Lu Xuan sighed at the gossipy heart of the foundation building cultivator, but he kept his mouth shut. I don't know about that, he said with a smile. That guy took advantage of his superior cultivation and snatched away all those rare black-scaled dragons. He treated them as treasures. I wanted to borrow one from him to improve the dragon species I had, but I couldn't. In the end, it was taken away by other dragons. The elegant scholar said with some gritted teeth. What's more hateful is that it would have been fine if he had taken it, but the bloodline of the newly born black-scaled dragon actually went a step further. Why can't I get such a good thing? Lu Xuan stood aside silently. The senior brother Tao Ziking in front of him was a typical person who laughed at others being fooled and hated himself for not being fooled. It was better to remain silent. Okay, junior brother Lu, we're here. The elegant scholar passed through the thick fog formation hidden with murderous intent and landed on a small island first. Looking down from the sky, the island looked like a crescent moon, and the concave area in the middle was where dragon monsters were raised. More than a dozen dragons with strong breath and huge bodies swam freely in the lake, floating up and down. I meet an old friend. A snow white dragon with a chill all over its body came into his sight. He felt inexplicably familiar with it and recalled the glorious days when he had raised it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Lake Bottom Dragon Skeleton Grass. When he accepted the task of raising dragons in Qianlong Lake, the Snow White Dragon was one of the dragons he raised at that time. It had excellent talent and was the first to be promoted to a third-grade dragon. Unexpectedly, on the island of the elegant scholar, he saw his old friend again. Lu Xuan couldn't help but feel emotional. In the distance, the ice dragon accidentally glanced over, and the moment it saw Lu Xuan, its body stopped in midair. It also recognized Lu Xuan's familiar figure. Ang the ice dragon roared, like an ice spear, shooting straight at Lu Xuan, and swimming happily in the waters near him. Junior brother Lu knows this ice dragon? Tao Ziking asked curiously when he saw this. To be honest senior brother, I once raised this ice dragon for a period of time, when I was still in the key training realm. Lu Xuan explained. I see, it seems that junior brother Lu and I have a great fate. The elegant scholar was relieved. Among the batch of dragons and pythons that he had raised before, only the Ice Kai and another two-headed dragon were promoted to the third grade, and the upper limit of the others was estimated to be only the second grade. Therefore, Lu Xuan was very impressed by the Ice Kai that once brought its own little brother. The same was true for the Ice Kai. If Lu Xuan had not tethered its dad for it, its promotion to the third grade would probably have been delayed for a long time. Although it was unruly when they first met, after learning about Lu Xuan's help, the Ice Kai was full of gratitude to him. The man and the Kai exchanged feelings with each other, and Lu Xuan began to examine the dragons under the elegant scholar and draw some blood. After feeding them some monster flesh and blood, Lu Xuan had a detailed understanding of the condition of each dragon. It seems that there is something wrong. When he checked a Snow White dragon, the information that appeared in his mind made him pause. Snowline Gyro, a third-grade dragon, is born with the power of ice and snow, and likes to lurk in extremely cold environments. There is a trace of true dragon skeleton essence in the body, but due to the huge difference in rank, it cannot be absorbed normally, and can only roam in the body. True dragon skeleton essence? It sounds like it is not an ordinary thing, but if it cannot be absorbed, is it beneficial or harmful to this Snowline dragon? Lu Xuan thought secretly, frowning slightly. Brother Tao, how do you usually feed these dragons? He turned his head and looked at the elegant scholar not far away. Of course, I feed them with fresh monster blood and flesh, sometimes even third-grade monster blood and flesh. What's wrong with my Snowline dragon? Tao Ziking said with some concern. I found a special spiritual object in the body of this Snowline dragon. It keeps wandering in the dragon's body and is difficult to absorb and digest. We need to find out what it is and confirm it. Lu Xuan said solemnly. Then I will control this snow dragon. Junior brother Lu, you can use your skills to find the foreign object in its body. Tao Ziking acted decisively and used the imitation of the dragon binding ring to tightly bind the neck of the snow dragon, making it unable to move. Lu Xuan did not hesitate at all. The red needle was wrapped with a layer of spiritual power at the foundation building level, and it easily broke through the flesh and blood of the snow dragon. He closed his eyes and carefully explored. Suddenly, the red needle in the snow dragon's body suddenly pulled out, and a thin black grass jumped out of the snow dragon's flesh and blood. One end of the thin black grass looked like a dragon's head, with more than 10 thin black whiskers, constantly swimming in the air. At first glance, it looked like a miniature dragon that was shrunk hundreds of times. This is dragon skeleton grass, a 5th grade spiritual plant. It is said that it can only grow and mature by chance around the skeleton of a real dragon. It is a natural supplement for a dragon, but it must be supplemented with other materials and processed before it can be used to feed a dragon. No wonder this dragon skeleton grass has been hidden in the body of the snowline flood dragon. Tao King secretly marveled at Lu Xuan's sharp spiritual awareness. He fed this snowline flood dragon every day and did not find any abnormalities. As soon as he came into contact with Lu Xuan, he found this dragon skeleton grass that had not been fully digested. Well, there is still half of the medicinal power left. It can be used after washing and adding some materials. He picked up the lively dragon skeleton grass and whispered, 5th grade spiritual plant. Senior brother, what do you think about the origin of this dragon skeleton grass? Lu Xuan asked curiously. Dragon skeleton grass usually only grows around the skeleton of a real dragon, and this snowline flood dragon has lived on my island for more than 10 years. That is to say, the dragon skeleton grass was found deep near the island. Tao King seemed to have thought of something, paused, and continued. I have been on this island for many years, and have a deep understanding of Qianlang Lake. Junior brother Lu doesn't know that it is said that there is a skeleton of an ancient real dragon buried deep in the lake, but due to the restriction, it has never been able to enter the deep bottom of the lake. Lu Xuan nodded. This can explain why the traces of dragon skeleton grass appeared in the body of the snowline dragon. The snowline dragon likes to grow in extremely cold environments. The restriction only targets cultivators, not dragons, so it can enter the deepest part of the coldest lake and accidentally swallow the dragon skeleton grass. Why didn't the sect salvage the real dragon skeleton? He asked curiously. It is said that many years ago, a giant and elder tried to salvage it, but was blocked by a trace of will on the real dragon skeleton, and was seriously injured in the backlash. Therefore, no one tried it later. Plus, the skeleton was placed at the bottom of the lake, and a weak dragon energy would be released invisibly, which was very beneficial to the growth of various dragons and pythons, and gradually formed this Qianlang Lake. Lu Xuan nodded heavily, with a hint of vigilance, looking at the elegant scholar. Then brother, the 5th grade spiritual plant is very attractive to cultivators in the early stage of foundation building. Although both of them are in the sect, it is hard to guarantee that Tao King would rather take the risk and take the treasure alone. However, Lu Xuan was full of confidence. Even with more than 10 dragons helping him and many treasures in hand, he was sure to retreat unscathed. Junior brother Lu found the trace of the dragon skeleton grass. I would like to share the treasure with you, but unfortunately, none of us are qualified to enter the depths of Qianlang Lake. Report it to the sect for processing. As for how I found the trace of the dragon skeleton grass, I will also report it truthfully, and will not take credit for your contribution. The elegant scholar sighed, and the surface of the storage bag flashed with spiritual light, and a puppet wooden bat appeared in front of the two. He moved his lips, transmitting the information about the dragon skeleton grass. The puppet wooden bird flapped its wings, and flew into the sky and disappeared. Wait, it's about the real dragon skeleton and the 5th grade spiritual plant. The sect will send someone to deal with it soon, he said helplessly to Lu Xuan beside him. Lu Xuan nodded indifferently, but in his heart he was thinking about whether he could enter the bottom of Qianlang Lake to see it. There were monks from the sect with higher realms coming here. He didn't have any idea of getting the dragon skeleton grass privately, but he wanted to see the mystery at the bottom of the lake. Chapter 272 Half-Dragon True Biography. And while Lu Xuan and the other person were waiting, a dragon roar with a hint of dragon power sounded in their ears. As the sound fell, a burly young man appeared beside the two. The young man was wearing a red robe, which seemed to be made of dragon skin. As he walked, a phantom of a dragon was looming. He had a pair of golden vertical pupils, and he was majestic without being angry. There were fine red scales on his neck, extending all the way to his chest. Brother Longley, I didn't expect that you would come here in person. The one next to you is Brother Lu Xuan. He was promoted to an inner disciple not long ago. He is good at spiritual plants and spiritual beasts. That's why I found the dragon skeleton grass in my snow-lined dragon. Tao King hurriedly introduced Lu Xuan to the half-human half-dragon cultivator. Brother Lu, this is Brother Longley, one of the true disciples, and one of the actual controllers of Qianlong Lake. Hello, Brother Longley. Lu Xuan hurriedly saluted. A true disciple can be regarded as the strongest among the entire Qianjian sect below the Jiandan stage, and his cultivation is much higher than his junior brother Lu. The burly young man nodded gently and looked at the still controlled snowline flood dragon at the lakeside with blank eyes. It was found from the body of this dragon. Tao King took out the dragon skeleton grass that had not been fully digested and presented it to Longley. It should have been found from the bottom of Qianlong Lake. The burly young man judged. I want to go down and take a look. If you two are willing, you can follow me, but there is a prerequisite. There is a certain degree of dragon power remaining at the bottom of Qianlong Lake. The deeper you go, the stronger the dragon power. If you go down, as long as you don't leave me too far, I can protect you. In addition, it is inconvenient to move underwater, so you'd better have a water-based protective talisman or magic weapon on your body, so that you can move freely. Then I won't follow my senior brother to join in the fun. Tao King said embarrassedly. Brother Long, I happen to have a 3rd grade water moving bead in my hand, which can allow me to walk on flat ground in the water of thousands of feet. It should be no problem to enter the bottom of Qianlong Lake. Lu Xuan stepped forward and said, holding a pigeon egg-sized, light white bead filled with water mist. It was the 3rd grade treasure he had opened from a mature water firefly grasp before. The water moving bead was suitable for the special environment of Qianlong Lake at the moment. Junior brother, I want to follow you to see it. Please take me to the bottom of the lake. Okay. The burly young man nodded. As long as Lu Xuan did not affect his actions, it would be a matter of convenience to take him down. He was not worried that Lu Xuan could do anything under his eyes. Follow me. He turned his head and gave Lu Xuan a warning, opened his mouth and spit out a small illusory dragon shadow whizzed out of his mouth, stopped in the air, and turned into a dragon-shaped jade seal. The jade seal tapped the surface of Qianlong Lake lightly, and all the surrounding dragons instantly became very solemn. There were bursts of dragon roars from under the lake, and the water surface was agitated, and a series of formations and prohibitions were revealed. The burly young man Longley jumped into the water first, and Lu Xuan followed closely with the water bead in his mouth. The moment he entered Qianlong Lake, the mist in the water bead floated out, surrounding Lu Xuan's body, forming a layer of almost non-existent transparent film, tightly clinging to Lu Xuan's body. Lu Xuan had a wonderful feeling of being like a fish in water. The lake water squeezed in from all sides was no longer a hindrance, but instead became a boost to his actions. This water bead is quite effective. Lu Xuan sighed and looked at Longley not far ahead. An illusory dragon shadow floated out from his robe, lingering around him. A dragon tail covered with dark red scales stretched out from his waist at some point, swinging left and right, moving extremely quickly, and diving to the bottom of the lake. Where is this dragon's tail? Lu Xuan couldn't help but think. He shook his head heavily, shook off the absurd thoughts in his mind, focused his eyes on Longley's head, and followed closely. After going down 100 feet, Lu Xuan's spiritual sense was keen to detect a faint pressure around him, and the deeper he went, the stronger the pressure became. The illusory dragon shadow beside Longley roared, and instantly increased several times, covering Lu Xuan. The pressure around him dissipated, and Lu Xuan felt relieved. After diving more than 1,000 feet, the two finally reached the bottom of the lake. It was dark around, and occasionally there was a slight breathing sound of an unknown existence not far away, which made Lu Xuan always alert. Junior brother Lu, the bottom of the lake itself has infinite pressure, plus the existence of the dragon's might. Once you leave my vicinity, there is a high possibility of accidents. Longley held up a shining night pearl in one hand, illuminating the surrounding 10 feet of water like daylight. Brother, don't worry, I won't move around, Lu Xuan said quickly. Under the white light, the bottom of the lake was full of strange stones, and occasionally strange shaped water plants could be seen growing. The two walked slowly on the bottom of the lake, carefully identifying those strange water plants. Brother, are these strange stones on the bottom of the lake left by the real dragon? Lu Xuan asked Longli in a voice transmission. How could the real dragon skeleton be easily seen by us? It has long been integrated with Qianlang Lake. These should be strange rocks formed by the dragon sitting in meditation in the past. Longli replied casually. Suddenly, his eyes focused. In a strange rock not far ahead, there was a slender black dragon swimming freely. The dragon head, dragon body, and dragon tail. At first glance, I thought it was a small dragon that was shrunk countless times. Longli's spiritual consciousness swept around and saw that there was no abnormality. Fine scales quietly emerged on the back of his hand and shot out like lightning, holding the slender black dragon firmly in his palm. The slender black dragon was naturally transformed from the 5th grade dragon skeleton grass. At this moment, it had lost its previous agility and stayed obediently in Longli's half-dragon palm. Junior brother Lu, this dragon skeleton grass is very hidden. Please help find it, Longli said in a voice transmission. He was very confident in his spiritual awareness. In addition, Lu Xuan was only in the early stage of foundation building. Therefore, he was not worried that he could do anything under his nose. Okay. Lu Xuan chose a direction and kept turning over the strange stone transformed from the dragon skeleton. He looked at the strange stone under his feet, his expression unchanged, but secretly performed the earth drawing technique, seemingly inadvertently embedding the strange stone into the crack he made. Senior brother Long, I found one. After a moment, he came to Longli with a slender black grass that looked like a little dragon. Together with the 4 found by Longli, the 2 found a total of 5 5th grade dragon skeleton grasses. By the way, senior brother Long, I like these dragon fossils at the bottom of the lake. Can you take some of them up and put them in a small lake in my cave? After searching for a long time and finding no new dragon skeleton grass, Lu Xuan asked softly. Okay. Longli didn't care. With his spiritual awareness close to the Jiandan realm, he knew that there was nothing unusual in the strange stone during the search for dragon skeleton grass. The value might not be as good as the fresh skeleton of an ordinary monster. Lu Xuan was ecstatic and calmly swept more than 10 strange stones into the storage bag. Chapter 273 Spirit Seed in the Stone. The 2 expanded the scope and continued to search for a long time. After not finding any new dragon skeleton grass, they left the bottom of Qianlang Lake. As soon as Lu Xuan emerged from the lake, the water bead in his mouth disappeared and fell into his palm. Longli also returned to his previous appearance, with a faint joy in his golden vertical pupils. Brother Long, Brother Lu, how did you harvest at the bottom of the lake? Tao Ziking, who had been waiting for a long time, came over immediately and asked curiously. A total of 5 dragon skeleton grasses were picked. Longli did not hide anything and said lightly. 5 spiritual plants of the 5th grade. The elegant scholar could not help but be amazed. The 5th grade spiritual plants were of great benefit to the Jiandan realm. Unexpectedly, such a great opportunity was hidden in the deep waters near his island. Unfortunately, without the permission of the sect, it was impossible to enter the bottom of Qianlang Lake, and it was impossible to get the dragon skeleton grass. Now, the leftovers could still be divided a little. As expected, Longli quickly made a profit distribution. Thank you, my 2 junior brothers, for finding a 5th grade spiritual plant like the dragon skeleton grass today. 5 dragon skeleton grasses, plus the half that junior brother Tao took out from the dragon. I cannot take all of them personally. I must hand them over to the sect first and let the sect distribute them. However, junior brother Lu has made a contribution by discovering the dragon skeleton grass. I can reward you with 400 sword seals on your behalf, Longli said, and a bunch of small sword seals floated in front of Lu Xuan. Thank you, senior brother Long. After all, the dragon skeleton grass is a 5th grade spiritual plant, which is what a Jiandan Zenran needs. Lu Xuan just discovered it by accident and did not dream of getting a 5th grade spiritual plant. Getting 400 sword seals is already a very generous reward. You know, ordinary 4th grade spiritual seeds only need more than 200 sword seals, and you can still have a lot left if you buy a 4th grade spiritual seed from the Synod Hall. As for junior brother Tao, the dragon under your command has already swallowed half of the dragon skeleton grass, which is of infinite benefit to it, so it is tacitly regarded as a reward for you. Thank you, senior brother Long. The elegant scholar bowed in gratitude. Longli nodded to Lu Xuan and the others. A dragon shadow appeared on the red robe, turned into a red light, and disappeared in an instant. Brother Tao, do we need to draw blood for the remaining dragons? After Longli left, Lu Xuan asked Tao Ziking, who was looking lost. He was still thinking about the fresh blood of the remaining 3rd and 4th grade dragons. Of course, I have to trouble you, junior brother Lu. The elegant scholar said with a wry smile, and the golden light of the replica of the dragon binding ring in his hand surged, releasing the snow-lined dragon that he had been controlling. Junior brother Lu, do you know how to refine the medicinal power of the dragon skeleton grass? He looked at the snow-lined dragon that had regained its freedom, turned his head, and asked Lu Xuan. Brother Tao, I'm just an ordinary spiritual plant master. It's better to leave your problem to the alchemists in the sect. Lu Xuan said helplessly, while drawing blood for a dragon under his feet. However, as long as senior brother Tao finds a way to refine the power of the dragon skeleton grass, the snow-lined flood dragon will naturally be able to soar into the sky and be promoted to the 4th level at a very fast speed. None of the remaining dragons were like the snow-lined flood dragon, who liked to run to the bottom of the lake, so there was no trace of dragon skeleton grass remaining in their bodies. After Lu Xuan checked and extracted all the more than 10 dragons, he left the island in the middle of the lake amid the gratitude of the elegant scholars. After leaving the Qianlong Lake, Lu Xuan couldn't help but feel happy. He sat on the back of the spiritual crane and let out a long whistle. The spiritual crane under him seemed to feel his joy and made a cheerful and crisp cry, echoing each other. Back in the cave, Lu Xuan couldn't wait to close the flowing light talisman array. He didn't care about the cloud-stepping lynx and the wind falcon who came over to ask for a touch, and hurried into the house. It's so exciting to snatch the opportunity from the hands of the true disciple. He took a deep breath and calmed down his excited mood. This trip to Qianlong Lake to check up the dragons was very rewarding, far beyond his expectations. In terms of dragon blood essence, in addition to obtaining hundreds of bottles of 1st and 2nd grade dragon blood essence from giant pythons, he also obtained more than 10 bottles of rare 3rd and 4th grade dragon blood essence from Tao Ziking. In addition, due to the discovery of the dragon skeleton grass of the snow-lined dragon, Longli, a true disciple who came after hearing the news, searched for 5 5th grade spiritual plants from the bottom of the lake, and Lu Xuan obtained 400 sword seals. At present, he has nearly 1,000 sword seals in his storage bag, which can be said to be a wealthy family. I remember when I first entered the sect, I searched for spiritual plants everywhere for 20 or 30 sword seals, and it took a long time to get a little sword seal. I didn't expect that now a small discovery can easily get 400 sword seals. Lu Xuan recalled his past experiences and was filled with emotion. Of course, dragon blood essence and 400 sword seals are nothing. The most precious things on this trip are those seemingly ordinary dragon fossils. When he was helping to search for dragon skeleton grass, he subconsciously buried everything he saw in the ground. Unexpectedly, such an unintentional act brought him great gains. When burying a dragon fossil, an idea flashed through his mind. There was actually a 5th grade dragon skeleton grass spirit seed hidden in the dragon fossil. This made Lu Xuan ecstatic and even a little unbelievable. After confirming that Longli did not find his abnormality, he had the idea of swallowing the dragon skeleton grass spirit seed alone. From the dragon fossil alone, it is impossible to feel the existence of the spirit seed, as if it is completely integrated with the fossil. Even if you scan it carefully with your spiritual sense, you still can't detect it. This made Lu Xuan greedy, and he casually found an excuse to put the fossil in his own small lake for decoration, and picked up a lot of stones. 3 of the stones contained dragon skeleton grass spirit seeds, and the rest of the stones were just to better disguise his true intentions. He came to the edge of the small lake on the mountain, and jumped directly into it. The bottom of the lake was not very deep, and Lu Xuan could move freely even without the water beads. With a thought, he poured out a large pile of strange stones from the storage bag in his hand, and his spiritual consciousness quickly locked onto 3 of them. The earth drawing technique was performed, and the structure of the soil layer at the bottom of the lake changed slightly, and a pit that could accommodate strange stones appeared. A piece of strange stone was placed in the pit, and with his mind focused, or thought flashed through his mind. Dragon skeleton grass, a 5th grade spiritual plant. The spiritual seed is condensed from the essence of the real dragon skeleton. It is integrated into the skeleton before breeding, and is difficult to detect. Dragon skeletons are acquired during the cultivation process, and spiritual fluids of 3rd grade or above are needed for nourishment. After maturity, it can help cultivators break through the related skills of real dragons. After raising dragon monsters, the possibility of promotion can be increased, and there is a certain probability of breaking through to the 5th grade level. Transformed in the ancient skeleton, and transformed into a dragon. 5th grade spiritual seeds. 3 more. I've made it. Xuan couldn't help but smile. Compared with the spiritual seeds, he still looked down on the mature dragon skeleton grass. Although the cultivation conditions are somewhat complicated, the richness of the light ball rewards brought by the maturity of the 5th grade spiritual plant can be imagined. Recommend a friend's new book, Xiangxia Harem Style. Undercover? How can there be a female protagonist who is more like a gigolo? It's a game style, light-hearted and nonsensical. Chapter 274, Meteoric Sword Talisman. It's a pity that the conditions for cultivating dragon skeleton grass are not met yet. Xuan stayed at the bottom of the lake and sighed secretly. The skeletons in the small lake were left by a dragon that had been in meditation for many years. The essence of the skeletons inside had long been lost, or almost absorbed by the dragon skeleton grass spirit seeds. However, relying on his relationship with Yang Qingfeng and Tao Ziking, 2 foundation building monks who raised dragons, it was not a problem to get 1 or 2 fresh skeletons that had not died recently. The most important thing is the 3rd grade and above spiritual liquid. The spiritual energy in the small lake is rich. The lake water can be regarded as a spiritual spring when placed outside, but it is still a big gap from becoming spiritual liquid. It can only be used to brew spiritual wine, boil a pot of spiritual tea, etc. The spiritual plants of the 5th grade and above, whether in terms of their own characteristics or cultivation conditions, are obviously different from the 3rd grade, 4th grade, or even other lower grade spiritual plants. Whether it is the phoenix tree, the demon vine, the dragon skeleton grass in the mountain cave, or the holy infant fruit and blood flower in the small courtyard of Jianmen town, they all have their own magical features. Xuan pondered, and a wisp of greenwood source energy flowed out from his fingertips and passed into the dragon fossil. Dragon skeleton grass is essentially a spiritual plant, and the greenwood source energy derived from the life essence of the 5th grade Xuan deer is beneficial to it. First, keep it in this dragon fossil to maintain its vitality, and then cultivate it well when the conditions are met. Xuan made a decision in his heart and arranged a simple formation near the dragon fossil to prevent the spiritual fish in the small lake from causing trouble. You can't just break in here. If I find you, I will pull out your tendons, peel your skin, and directly produce various spiritual plant raw materials. He summoned the Lihuojiao and instructed with a serious expression. The young dragon floated in the lake, nodding its little head. Xuan then got out of the small lake and began to inspect the spiritual field and cultivate spiritual plants. In the next 10 days, he stayed on the mountain with peace of mind, cultivating spiritual plants and raising spiritual beasts every day. In his spare time, he practiced martial arts and swordsmanship. His life was simple and fulfilling. That day, while inspecting the spiritual field, he came to the first sword raising good he had planted, and found that the last sword raising good on the vine had matured. The good was thin at the top and thick at the bottom, with a mottled green surface, and the sound of a sword could be heard faintly from inside. Xuan's spiritual consciousness attached to it, controlling the invisible sword energy in the good. With a thought, an invisible sword energy shot out from the good, and sank into a huge rock. Yes, the attack power of the sword energy is equivalent to that of a 3rd grade magic sword, but it is more hidden and hard to defend against. Xuan casually tried the invisible sword energy in the sword raising good and sighed. He put away the good and turned his attention to the white light ball at the top of the vine. The white light ball flickered slightly, as if it was condensed from countless tiny sword energies. Lu Xuan stretched out his hand and gently touched the surface of the light ball, which suddenly cracked and instantly poured into Lu Xuan's fingertips, causing a very slight tingling sensation on his skin. A thought flashed through his mind. Harvest a 3rd grade sword raising good and obtain a 4th grade meteorite sword talisman. A special talisman that was neither gold nor jade, shaped like a sword tip, appeared in his hand. It seemed that a meteor passed through the surface of the talisman, burning everything just for the last moment of sublimation. Lu Xuan concentrated his mind on the talisman and immediately learned the detailed information about the talisman. Starfall Sword Talisman, a 4th grade talisman. After being activated, the sword energy is like a falling meteor, facing the opponent with an unmatched momentum. The speed is getting faster and faster, and the power is getting stronger and stronger, which can seriously injure or even kill the cultivators in the middle and late stages of foundation building. New 4th grade sword talisman. Lu Xuan was happy in his heart. The 3 grade sword raising good produced 5 goods, bringing 5 4th grade sword talismans, 2 roaring sea sword talismans, 2 big sun sword talismans, and the last starfall sword talisman, one of which consumed most of the sword energy in the Langayu blessed land. Although they are all consumables, compared to the efforts in the cultivation process, the harvest is amazing. After all the sword raising goods matured, the vines planted lost their spirituality, and the goods produced later were not very unusual. Lu Xuan simply pulled them out and moved the remaining second-hand flying swords below to the newly planted goods. Spend where you should, save where you should. You can buy a spiritual seed with a few hundred sword seals, or you can save a second-hand flying sword worth only a few spiritual stones. He would naturally keep the 5 4th grade sword talismans obtained from the sword raising goods, but it would be a bit wasteful to keep all 5 sword raising goods, so he had to deal with them. Keep 1 or 2 for yourself, and deal with the rest in the sect. Whether it is exchanging with fellow disciples, or selling at a low price to the sect's hall to purchase spiritual plants and magic tools, it is a good choice. Although the spiritual stones earned may be less, it is safe and stable enough without taking any risks. After the sword raising goods matured, the remaining 9 sword grasses also matured one after another. In the spiritual field, Lu Xuan's palm bones were like colored glaze. He grasped the bottom of the sword grass and pulled it out directly. The shape and size of the sword grass were similar to those of ordinary flying swords, and even formed a natural hilt at the root, which enabled Lu Xuan to grasp the sword grass just right. Lu Xuan glanced at it and confirmed that it was of good quality. He gently touched the white light ball that appeared on the ground of the spiritual soil. Harvest a 2nd grade sword grass and obtain the winter snow sword intent. Or thought flashed through his mind, and an invisible sword intent poured into the sea of consciousness, like snowflakes falling, soft and elusive, omnipresent, and bone-chilling. After the sword intent continued to accumulate, it could freeze the opponent's body and mind invisibly. In this way, the 8 sword grasses were fully mature. What was somewhat unexpected to Lu Xuan was that the sword grass cultivated with the 4 different sword energies of the 4-seasoned sword art had the corresponding sword intent blooming in the light ball. Spring rain sword intent, summer sword intent, autumn wind sword intent, winter snow sword intent. 4 different sword intentions poured into Lu Xuan's sea of consciousness, allowing him to reach a new level in his comprehension and control of the 4-seasoned sword art. The 4 sword arts rose from swordsmanship to sword momentum, and different sword momentums can be freely switched, just like the change of the 4 seasons. Each move and style contains the way of nature. It seems that I have not practiced the 4-seasoned sword art much, and I have become a swordsmanship master inexplicably. Lu Xuan secretly sighed. At this moment, he had the illusion that he had been immersed in the 4-seasoned sword arts for dozens or hundreds of years. On weekdays, he didn't even have much time to practice the great 5-element gong, let alone practice sword art. However, when cultivating sword grass, due to the refined cultivation, I was forced to control the 4 kinds of sword energy stimulated on the sword grass. Compared with other sword cultivators who cultivated sword grass normally, I got more training opportunities. Not to mention, after the sword grass matures, the white light ball brings the sword intention of the corresponding sword art. Cultivating a sword grass is a double harvest of sword art. He thought secretly. Of the 10 sword grasses, 8 have matured. The 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass will take some time to mature. When the other sword grass cultivated by the red flame sword key matures, it's time to go to the sword hall. Chapter 275 is nothing! Exclamation mark. The 10 sword grass spiritual seeds that Shenyi left for him were cultivated with 2 of each 4 season sword energy, for a total of 8. The remaining 2 were the red ones made from the combination of the red flame sword and the Xuan sword sheath. It was cultivated with flame sword key, and another 3rd grade successfully improved wind and thunder sword grass was cultivated with Zunli sword light. The wind and thunder sword grass was still a long time away from maturing, but it didn't take long for the red flame sword grass to fully mature. Lu Xuan harvested a red flame sword intention from the white light mass. He laid out the 9 sword grasses in order, and decided to take them to the sword hall to give Shenyi an explanation. An hour later, Lu Xuan arrived at the location of the sword hall. He stood in front of a vast sword formation that was unknown for how many miles, and waited quietly. The spiritual consciousness cannot sense the scope of the sword formation, and there are countless fish-like sword energy swimming freely on the surface of the formation. He seems calm and ordinary, but once he tries to rush into the sword formation, countless sword energy will instantly cover him. He had already used the communication talisman to get in touch with Shenyi, and not long after, a young man with an ordinary appearance walked out of the sword formation. The young man had advanced foundation building skills. His body was upright, like a sharp sword, and he was confident. "You are junior brother Lu, right?" The young man looked at Lu Xuan with his eyes, and there seemed to be an invisible sword energy focusing on Lu Xuan. "That's right, it's me. How do you call me senior brother?" "Just call me senior brother Li." "Senior brother Shenyi asked me to come out to pick you up. Please follow me and don't cross, otherwise the sword formation may accidentally injure you, senior brother." Lu Xuan nodded and followed the young man into the sword formation. A huge sword energy peak appeared in front of him, with all kinds of sword energy dancing wildly around the mountain. The 2 came to a simple courtyard. A gentle monk stood quietly in front of the courtyard gate, carrying a dark black sword box on his back. His whole body was like a long sword with restrained sword intent. It was Shenyi, the master of the Sinner Hall and the senior executive of the Sword Hall, who had met Lu Xuan several times, and admired Lu Xuan quite a lot. "Senior brother Shen." Lu Xuan quickly saluted. "Junior brother Lu, we haven't seen you for a long time." Shenyi smiled gently, and the young monk quietly retreated. "Junior brother Lu, come here this time, but the sword grass I gave you earlier has been successfully cultivated?" After the 2 chatted for a few words, and reminisced about their old friendship, Shenyi asked aloud. "Fortunately, the sword grass spiritual seed that senior brother Shen gave me has been cultivated and matured." "Oh, really? Junior brother, take it out, and let me see it." After receiving Lu Xuan's affirmative reply, Shenyi's face showed a hint of curiosity. Lu Xuan brushed it with one hand, and 9 sword-shaped sword grasses flew out of the storage bag, and were placed in front of the 2 of them one by one. Good quality sword grass. If you guessed it correctly, it should be nourished and cultivated by the summer sword energy and 4-seasoned sword art. Shenyi picked up the first sword grass, flicked it with a flick of his finger, and an invisible sword energy the shot hit the sword grass, causing the sword grass to react violently, and many violent and manic sword energies shot out. "Not bad." Shenyi nodded, and said in approval. "All the 9 sword grasses are of good quality. Junior brother Lu is beyond my expectation." After carefully inspecting the 9 sword grasses, he turned to Lu Xuan and said, "I usually spend a lot of time and energy on spiritual plants, and with good luck, I was lucky enough to get good quality sword grass." Lu Xuan said with a smile. "However, junior brother Lu, I remember that there were 10 sword grass spiritual seeds given to you at that time. Now there are 9 sword grasses, but one of them failed to be cultivated." Shenyi checked the number of sword grasses again and asked curiously. Another sword grass?" Lu Xuan paused, thinking about how to answer. "It doesn't matter if you fail. After all, even the experienced sword cultivators in the sword hall cannot guarantee your success rate, junior brother." Shenyi comforted Lu Xuan gently. "No, senior brother Shen, that sword grass was accidentally improved and became a 3rd grade spiritual plant." Lu Xuan whispered. "A mere sword grass was lost." Shenyi continued subconsciously. It doesn't count. What? His tone suddenly rose, and his eyes were full of disbelief. Junior brother Lu, you improved a sword grass into a 3rd grade spiritual plant? Are you serious? He flashed in front of Lu Xuan and asked again. Yes, judging from my many years of experience in cultivating spiritual plants, it is indeed a new 3rd grade sword grass. Lu Xuan said firmly. Go back to the mountain. Before Shenyi finished speaking, a rainbow light shot out from the deep black sword box behind him, wrapping the two of them, and disappearing from the courtyard in an instant. Lu Xuan returned to the foot of the mountain peak named after him in a trance. Please also ask junior brother Lu to activate the mountain guarding formation, and take me to see the 3rd grade sword grass. Shenyi used the last trace of reason in his heart to suppress the idea of breaking into Lu Xuan cave directly and said gently. In front of the wind and thunder sword grass. Shenyi closed his eyes and carefully explored every detail of the sword grass with his spiritual consciousness. A small stream of sword energy surged out from his fingertips and shot at the wind and thunder sword and grass sword. Where the sword grass was hit, hundreds of dark black sword energy flew out, like a tiny hurricane, that was shrunk countless times. The hurricane rolled past, and lightning and thunder could be vaguely seen. Contains the power of wind and thunder. Although I don't know how junior brother Lu cultivated it, it is indeed a 3rd grade sword grass. Shenyi confirmed with a solemn expression, and then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, which grew wider and wider big. Junior brother Lu, you are really a genius. I remember that, when you were still a key practitioner, you accidentally obtained a sword and grass spirit seed that was left outside. Without any experience, you relied on the Gengold sword of the Grandmaster realm. The secret cultivation was successful. After learning this, I estimate that you are not only a talented swordsman, but also a person who is naturally suitable for cultivating sword grass. The 10 sword grass spiritual seeds are left behind. You brought 9 good quality sword grasses, which was already beyond my expectation. I didn't expect you to give me such a big surprise. It's the first time you cultivate sword grass on a large scale. A 3rd grade rare sword grass was obtained after improvement. This can be said to be shocking. Shenyi still couldn't calm down, because of his mind, that was in the late stage of foundation building. It wasn't that he was out of touch by nature, but that what Lu Xuan had done was completely beyond his imagination. 10 sword grass spiritual seeds were used to cultivate 9 mature sword grass plants of good quality. That was already a very good result. Many sword cultivators in the sword hall who specialized in cultivating sword grass could not achieve this. But Lu Xuan not only could do all this easily, he could also improve and cultivate a 3rd grade sword grass. You must know that Xianji insect, as its name suggests, is famous throughout the entire cultivation world for its swords, among which sword grass is the core foundation of the entire sword hall. Many 3rd, 4th and even 5th grade swords are made from cultivating and refining sword grass. During the long years of the sword hall, if you want to obtain new varieties of high grade sword grass, you need to go through generations of experiments and experience countless failures before you can successfully improve and produce a new sword grass. And Lu Xuan, just one person, completed this process in a short time. How could this not shock him? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.